We're waiting for Olga may be joining us a little bit late. I don't think Irene's going to be able to make it today for Region 6. Albert will be late. And Larissa is not going to be able to make it. Other than that, we have the rest of our project steering committee on and confirmed. So great. I think we're ready to get started.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, John, and happy December and happy holidays to everybody out there. I'll call the meeting to order. And the first order of items is the agenda review. So back to you, John.
Very good. We just have our one action item, which is the minutes. We want to have a number of informational items. We did have a production incident that we want to spend a little bit of time talking through. Coming up, last month we were celebrating all being on one system, all 58, which is fantastic. And we have to start talking about different components of final acceptance. So quality assurance standing is going to walk us through that and the different component parts from the application to the ISS effort, as well as central print. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on that. We're going to do a customer service center update where we're at. Since our last meeting, we have had Los Angeles County go live on the AWS Connect solution. So we'll give an update on that. We do have an update on our bots. We know that we have had some work to do on both our welcome and authentication bots. I think that's moving in a positive direction. We want to update our PSC on that. And our enhanced call control panel was being rolled out to our former C4 counties and where we're at in that effort. So we're going to take about 15 minutes and do that. We're going to talk about project risks. As we know from our last meeting, we sort of pivoted those risks to be more M&O related. Then we're going to do our standard update on policy, the continuous coverage unwinding. Lots of information coming out on Benefits Cal and where the various components are. We want to take a few minutes and talk about another effort that we'd like to really sort of kick off on workload management and scheduling effort and what that is. We know that probably a lot of the feedback that we're getting from various aspects of the counties is on reports. And we know that all 58 counties are in a different place with reports, whether they be fiscal reports, management reports, and we have a strategy for sort of dealing with that, some processes and some communication and tracking and forums. We want to make sure that the PSC is fully up to date on that because we have a lot of documentation and things like that, but right now it doesn't seem like our communications are permeating all of the necessary places that we need to do that. So we want to talk a little bit about where we're at on that. Tom's going to give an update on where we're at with procurements as we head towards the end of the year and the first of 2024. There's lots of activities happening on that. Then we're going to wrap it up with the standard updates for IV&V. You'll notice we didn't call out QA separately on this. QA is going to be really facilitating and talking through that final acceptance. In the future, of course, you'll be hearing from them on M&O activities and things like that, but nothing to call out today separate from the final acceptance. Want to hear from our state partners and, of course, our regional updates. So a full agenda. I don't think we're real pressed on time. So that's it, Cindy. Back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that review. So this is the public opportunity now to speak on items not on the agenda. Public comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker, except that a speaker using a translator shall be allowed up to 6 minutes. The public may also speak on any item on the agenda by waiting until that item is read and then requesting recognition to speak from the co-chair. All lines will be muted. To unmute, click the microphone icon. When connected via telephone, press *6. So this is the opportunity for anyone to make a comment on an item not on the agenda.
Good morning, y'all. This is Ruben. Is it okay for me to kick us off?
Yes, please go ahead, Ruben. Thank you.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all so much for inviting public comment in this space. Again, we always appreciate being here and sharing quality time with y'all. My name is Ruben. I use he, they pronouns. I currently serve at UC Berkeley as well as in a system-wide capacity supporting all of our UC social services community. And I just have a couple of offerings that came from our latest monthly meeting from the community. Number one is just to share with you all what's going well, what are some timely updates and some challenges and improvements that are happening with regards to college students and our technology and this new platform as the migration has now embraced and is activated in all 10 UC campuses. What's going well, folks really appreciate uploading documents and viewing documents that were already submitted. Students are able to see details of their cases and access the NOAs. Is really helpful for students who can't receive mail. And sending a message to caseworkers. Caseworkers might not always respond, but helpful when requesting interviews. And documentation is there to show students is trying to reach out to the county. So really appreciate that we have those features as it is improving the experiences of our students. In terms of areas of improvements, there's issues with link for emails and text messages. Oftentimes when there's confirmation emails and confirmation text, it's not always the same link. And then there's errors that are happening when people try to access it depending on which platform they're using. And sometimes they send us to both and they're struggling with that. Counties are not keeping the date of interview that is listed on Benefits Cal. We're also seeing that in some of the campuses, students can request interviews, but they're told that it's only a request and there is no mandate for the county to act on the requested interview from the students who are applying for their benefits. And then the last thing, and definitely the most worrisome to share with you all, is that in the migration, several of our campuses had students be notified that they were dropped from receiving their benefits. And there was no reasoning behind that. So when we reached out to the county to confirm why the student had been dropped from the benefits, they didn't know that the student had been dropped from the benefits. And they confirmed that indeed they were no longer in the system and that the student had not done anything wrong and that they as county workers hadn't done anything either. Some counties, to John's opening offerings, that different folks have different access to data and reports, we're able to look into that. And one of the campuses that was able to do a report found 150 students had been dropped from their migration and then had to go into a manual process to get them back into receiving benefits. So that now we're working with the rest of the counties to confirm if they have the capacity to run a report and identify how many students were dropped in the migration so that we can reinstill the students in benefits and make sure that we move forward in better ways. And lastly, just sharing with you all that we have a couple of questions of how are exemptions being coded in the updated CalSAWS? How are yellow banners being determined in the updated CalSAWS? Because this college student drop was not flagged as such. What template reports and what unique reports are being created in the new CalSAWS? And how are we thinking about proactive prioritization of college students as a population for that? So that we can work together in those reports and make sure that they're designed so it represents our communities. And then the last thing, just want to share with you all that we do have our largest summit coming up on February 21st and 22nd. All of you are invited. Registration is going to go live today or tomorrow. We'd love to have our CalSAWS, CDSS, county community represented in that space as we're bringing together over 1,200 community college, CSU, UC, nationwide experts and community leaders that are working on college student social services in addition to other basic needs areas. That's it for my offerings for this morning, y'all. I hope y'all are taking care of yourselves, mind, heart, body, and spirit, and wishing you all the best for this meeting ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Ruben.
Did I say on time? Is that cool?
Maybe a touch over, Ruben, but it's okay. Hey, Cindy, just to respond to a couple things on some follow-ups.
Yeah.
On Ruben, the yellow banner cases and the exemptions coded. The one thing about yellow banner cases is that benefits roll on those, so it should not have any impact on a student receiving their benefits. So we can have somebody reach out offline on that, but that's
okay.
yellow banner cases are to flag caseworkers that prior to the next redetermination, that they just need to run EDBC, sync that up, see if there's any data
That's right.
discrepancies on that, but it should not adversely impact benefits. On the issue associated with 150 students presumably being dropped, we have validated and revalidated that everybody appropriately came over from the migration. So what we want to be able to do is reach out to you and the impacted county on that 150 and make sure that we get down to sort of the facts of the situation and what's going on and what the county's seeing, what the project's seeing, what the student is experiencing, and make sure that we could make sure that the cause or the effect that's going on, that we're on the same page as to the facts. So we will be having someone on our team reach out to you directly via email so that we can coordinate with that impacted county, because that would be a very serious item if somebody was dropped during migration and we have had validation that that hasn't occurred. So there's probably a little bit different perception, maybe a training issue that we need to take care of.
Yeah, and just confirming with you, John, that happened at multiple of our campuses, which means multiple counties. It wasn't just one single one. And that on top of that, those students were not flagged in the system in any type of way. If the student hadn't notified us at the campus, the county wouldn't have known that they were dropped. So that's what we were trying to lift here with you, and happy to work with you, John, and whoever the point of contacts are going to be for this one, because to your point, it is a very serious issue that we wanted to make sure that we were working collaboratively with you all. And in the meantime, a lot of the cleanup work is happening in the multiple campuses. So whoever you want point for that, happy to work with you all. I would also invite Jen Tracy in those communications, because I know that we have access to the UC side. And I'm curious if the other segments are also communicating to the advocates on the other locations, but happy to partner with you all and move towards resolutions for this.
Right, and I appreciate Jen's clarification that it wasn't that the case didn't migrate, it was that the exemption flags may have been dropped, and that's a good clarification as we start our dialogue.
Appreciate y'all.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for that. Another hand up, call on Jody Berger.
Hi, good morning. Jody Berger, she, her pronouns. I'm from the Western Center on Law and Poverty, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Over the last few months, we've been hearing that from our consumers and CBO partners that there's issues with the inter-county transfer process that does not appear to be working as expected. Issues have included people being terminated from benefits rather than having their cases transferred. We understand that there may be multiple factors complicating the ICT process, and it's unclear that all the factors that are affecting these barriers, but we've had identified some, two of which we will be raising in this forum. First, we request that the free-form notice of action for discontinuances be removed or limited, as all discontinuances have to be for a statutory reason for which specific notices exist. Second, we've heard from county workers that they've been unable to reach each other because of the new phone systems that seem to be difficult to navigate, the SAWS internal ones, and therefore they were unable to complete the inter-county transfer. One recommendation we have is for counties to set up a dedicated email address or phone number specifically for inter-county transfers that could be staffed by appropriate eligibility workers and as a county-to-county non-public communication option. Lastly, we recommend exploration of other technology issues that may be creating barriers for the ICTs. By improving the ICT process, we could reduce the burden and potential gap in benefits that are occurring for consumers as they have to reapply, and reduce the burden on workers who have to process new applications. It will also ensure that counties can meet the requirements related to the inter-county transfers as outlined in ACL 1430. So thank you again for the opportunity to raise these issues, and we look forward to learning more about what will be done to resolve these issues. And so the specific action item request that we're making is to remove the free-form notices of discontinuances, because they should be tied to specific notices. Thank you. And I could take any questions.
Thank you. I don't see any comments. So I'll move over to Marcella.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Marcela Marquez. I'm with Maternal and Child Health Access here in LA County. Thank you first and foremost for the opportunity to be able to speak. And for the ways that, this group is working to reduce barriers to access to consumers and the folks that we support as well. In my role with MCHA, we provide support directly to clients applying for and renewing benefits. One issue that we continue to see that there appears to be many clients that have their Medi-Cal case, CalFresh and possibly CalWorks cases split. The impact of this to clients is that they have to link their case separately to see information from their respective programs. The reason this is a problem for our clients beyond, the additional work and labor is that their renewals are not available on their accounts as expected. Even though their cases are linked, they've been linked prior to accessing, they are required to relink these cases. The renewals are not populating as they should when clients go onto their case and are trying to access their reports and renewals. And it is taking hours and days for these renewals to appear on their cases after relinking. We are requesting a review of the data to identify these duplicate cases and split cases so that they can be merged. This will reduce, or we believe this will reduce the burden on clients and improve the ability for people to submit their renewals. Another issue that we're seeing is the renewal tracker seems to have bugs. At least we've seen that there is information that is not very accurate. It doesn't appear that this feature is updated timely. And the biggest issue that we see in the system is that tracking multiple renewals are popping up for prior cases. So the information is pretty outdated for tracking of renewals that are not current on the client's case. And the information, we feel is really useless to consumers. And this requires clients to continue calling the county. So they're, constantly having to call into customer service to get current information about their reports and their cases. We need Benefits Cal to not just assign features that tick a deliverable, but to make sure that these features actually serve the intended purpose and demonstrate that they're making good use of the invested resources. So, thank you for the opportunity for the comment. We do value the partnership, and we hope that the comments will support and continue the evolution of the project to ensure that Benefits Cal can deliver on its promises for consumer support. And if there's any questions, I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for your comment. Okay, I don't see any comments or any other raised hands. Okay. Okay, thank you. I was just checking the chat. All right, thank you. Well, we'll move on now to the approval of the minutes.
Cindy, I think there's one more public comment.
Is there another one? Okay. I don't see any hands, so just,
Yeah, this is Amy Dearlam,
Oh,
River
okay.
City Food Bank.
all right, thank you.
Sure. Thank you. I am Amy Dearlam. I work for River City Food Bank here in Sacramento County, and I speak for our CBO as well as for 6 other CBOs in Sacramento County who are application assisters in the Benefits Cal system. And I appreciate this opportunity. Our county recently was in the last migration, the Wave 6, and we are grateful for the efforts Sacramento County has provided for us to be a part of that process and support us and the consumers in that. However, we have experienced in this last month some barriers to automation and technology that I would like to bring up and have addressed. I have 4 points. The first, as myself and other CBOs around the state have mentioned over the past 12 months, workers are having a hard time finding the applications that we are submitting through Benefits Cal. In one particular case, we did an application on November 8th. The customer called us on November 28th and said, I have not heard anything. We called county and the worker could not find the application. We subsequently, throughout that week and the following week, called 3 times to the county, which takes a while to reach someone. And 3 workers were not able to find the application. On the 4th try, we found a veteran worker who was able to find it. At that point, the application got app-regged, and the intake was scheduled for December 26th. This was an ES application. So this is somebody that should have been served within technically 3 days, but we know that doesn't always happen. So this client is now delayed in getting benefits. And additionally, like many counties, we continue to hear that workers are not able to find applications, and that's a concern. And also not able to find uploaded, some of the verifications that we upload into the system are not able to find. So that may be a training issue, I don't know, but I want to address that. The second issue we're raising is related to what we refer to as AB 12 foster youth. These are the older foster youth, 18 to 21. We work a lot with this population because they struggle with getting on CalFresh and staying on CalFresh based on how the system works. Since the migration, we have seen an increase in foster youth income being erroneously counted, thus either getting dropped off of the CalFresh, or their benefits go back down to a minimum because the system is now counting the wrong amount of income. Thus, we need this issue to be addressed. This is a vulnerable population that's struggling to get out of the foster system and become independent, and are utilizing these public benefits to help with that process. The third issue is we are seeing in text messages from Benefits Cal, customers are receiving messages from Cal SAW for their intake interview, the date and the time, as well as if they've missed the appointment. But the text comes from Cal SAW. Most of the folks I work with do not, or the customers I work with do not know what Cal SAW is. So they ignore it, or they think it's spam. So my suggestion would be if that could be changed to Benefits Cal or CalFresh, something that they might recognize and respond to it, or take their intake based on that. Lastly, the new phone system for Sacramento County is even harder than the last access. Access to that system is even harder than the previous one, which was getting pretty tough this last year. Before the migration, customers were at least able to get into the queue, and you were told what number you were. So we knew we could at least know how long it might take, and we were given an approximate amount of time. Now they're consistently told to either call back because it's full, not given the callback option, or if they are given the callback option, they cannot give any different phone number. So if I have a CBO is helping to make this call for them, I can't change the number to the customer's number to call back. So that's frustrating. And it makes, what ends up happening is the customer gives up. They don't think it's worth it. They're frustrated. They just decide to let go and decide not to continue on the program.
Okay.
So these are barriers.
Okay. I'm sorry. Are okay. We're just gonna let you know your time is up.
Sure. Thank you.
Make sure you're winding up. So
Yep.
okay.
Yep. Just thank you again, and appreciate your addressing these concerns.
Great. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, and did I miss any others? Is there any other public comment? Okay, thank you for that discussion.
We'll look at some of the items that are policy or operational questions, be reaching out with counties or state partners. And we have some of these suggestions that we received, and that we have some things that are being queued up and looked at as we go forward. So we'll be following up on these items with counties and with our advocate partners when we might need some more information or some specifics to get examples.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on to the approval of the minutes from November, and first we'll review the action items.
All right, again, from November 9th, you have the minutes on the back page is the action items. First one's for Dawn, on return mail that has a February due date, so we will defer that till February. Second item was closed. On the third item was a reach out to Jennifer Tracy to provide an overview of improvements of the bot functionality. I think we're going to talk a little bit about that on the agenda today. But Laura, Danielle, any updates other than what's in the agenda today?
No, I think we'll cover more details in the slides.
Okay, so Jen, we will be covering some details on the bots later on in the agenda. And then the other one, Lisa Laura, was a reach out to Advocate Partners about text wording requirements and options and things like that. So Lisa, Laura, anything on that?
Yeah, so a quick update on that one. So that is in process as we just heard. Another request come in to change the description from councils. That's the prefix or the preface on each text message. It has to be the same on each message. It comes from the council's account. We have been exploring changing that to benefits Cal per several requests. So we have done that discovery. It does impact the length of several text messages. Again, we try to keep everything within one message and not break it and send multiple. So where we're at in the process is in January, we will be talking to the counties at the committee meeting. We have received a CER from one of the counties with a suggestion. So we do want to get county input and consensus on the path forward. And then we will be following up immediately with the advocates to go through and work through suggested changes so we can all be in alignment and then schedule that for a system change request in the future. So it is moving along. Next update will be after we meet with the counties in January.
Okay, so this will be an action item for follow-up at the February PSC. In between that time, we should expect some discussions with the counties and a follow-up with our advocate co-leads on sort of the outcome of that and maybe some wording to, because this is public facing, make sure that we get the advocate co-leads input on that. And then we are looking at timing for making this change, assuming that we get everybody's stack hands on verbiage and things like that. All right.
And if there is verbiage change, we also need our state partners to review that as well.
State partners looking at that as well. Very
So-
good.
Danny or Laura?
No, just that we're also in legal review with a contract for some professional services to assist us in the telco space where you've got multiple telcos that exist and carriers that have different names on the accounts as they're receiving that information and then actually passing that along to the customers depending on what carrier you might have. And engaging in those services will also help us to be able to make those changes and also create consistency across the board and hopefully expedite that with the telco carriers. So we're working in parallel with legal and contracts to engage those services as in parallel with the work being done with the committee and the counties to really solidify what exactly what verbiage do we really want to be put into those text messages. So kind of working that in parallel on two tracks.
So Cindy, that is an update on our action items and a couple items will be carrying over and just to give an update on those. So these are open for PSC questions, comments, or to move approval.
Okay, great. Do I have a approval of the minutes? Motion to approve?
Elaine Martinez, motion to approve.
This is Rachel from Region 3, a second.
Great.
Very good. Anna, do you approve?
I approve.
Thank you. Eduardo?
I approve.
Very good. Cecilia?
I approve.
Thank you. Cindy?
I approve.
Very good. I don't think Albert's joined us yet. Sandra, do you approve?
I approve.
Thank you very much. LaShonda, do you approve?
I approve.
Very good. And Olga?
I approve.
Very good. And Cindy, we probably just need to see if there was any public comment on the minutes.
I apologize. Any comment from the public on the minutes? Okay, sounds like the minutes have been approved.
Very good, Cindy. That moves us into our first informational item, and I'm going to turn it over to Arnold to talk about production incident that we did have on December 4th.
Thank you, John. So on December 4th, we had a production incident that impacted our ForgeRock service that provides the user authentication for Benefits CalSAWs, the imaging application, and the contact centers. We received an alert at 4:57 on the 4th. That was Monday, that Benefits Cal users were unable to log in. We proceeded to do the troubleshooting on it. It took us an hour to understand what had happened, and that a data restore was required in order to restore the service. We initiated that process at 6:18. It was completed at 8:47. By 8:50, we had confirmed that all the services had been restored. What had happened, or the impact that the user base had felt, was that for Benefits Cal users, they were unable to log in during that period of roughly 4 hours. County workers who were actually logged in were able to continue to use the systems, but new logins were unable to be used or unable to be created. So that's where we really felt more of the impact for those county users. The batch process and the integrations with the interfaces were functional during this period. And then as part of the overall impact, there was 3,618 Benefits Cal users who had created accounts during that period, or that started at about 2:00 in the afternoon, that we had to go through additional restoration activities. And that took roughly 24 hours. So those accounts were restored by Tuesday evening. Where we are in the current status is we know what happened as to why the issue occurred with the accounts. It was actually a bug within the code, and we were able to trace down the exact part that caused the issue during the maintenance activity that was occurring. That has also been tested and fixed and promoted back into the process. So the services are currently running. Our disaster recovery region is available as well. It was unable to be used that evening because the maintenance activity that caused the issue that had the bug in it was actually being done on the disaster recovery region. So it was unable to be used to speed up the restoration for us. The other aspects that we are looking at this is looking at the internal processes and the timing of the actual maintenance activity. And so the team is taking that and reviewing those processes and really looking at the timing of it to understand, when to adjust when future maintenance will be performed in the ForgeRock space to avoid these impacts in prime time. So with that, I can hand it back to Cindy for any questions.
Great. Oops, there we go. Great. Thanks, Arnold. Any comments or questions from the PSC members? I would just like to say thank you for the explanation for that. And no time is a good time to have downtime, but it did impact us that day. We were working on we had some concentrated staff planning to work some overtime on EBT thefts, and just to kind of put a damper on our plans. But I know no time is a good time, but do appreciate you looking into it, into the outage and what can be done in the future. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. And we understand the impact and are very sorry that the counties had that impact during that time at the start of the month when it's our peak period.
Sure. Any other comments or questions from the public? Okay, and then Arnold will move on then, I believe. Next item, the final acceptance.
That's correct.
Great.
And so I'll go ahead and kick this off. Or Dan, you can go ahead and kick us off on the first slide from a QA perspective.
Thanks, Arnold. I've got the first slide and then there's 3 wrap-up slides. So the purpose of this presentation is to provide a little context about the term final acceptance, what we've done in the past, what's before us in 2024, and the types of things that QA will be collaborating on with our 3 delivery partners to confirm sign off and final acceptance with them as well as a consortium. So starting at the top here, the very first final acceptance that the project processed was in November of 21. That was for the online CalWorks assessment tool built by what was then Cambria, and then today is Ernst Young. They're still around. And that was involved integration to the existing SAW systems at the time as part of their final acceptance. From there, we did the portal Benefits Cal in February of 22. And that one was also tied to integration with the multiple SAW systems done with Deloitte. We did C4 Cal ACES, the 40 county migration final acceptance. It was a multi-month effort. That system, of course, went live in September of 21. We spent a period of time working through one of the bigger issues was related to imaging, and then had presentations at Project Steering Committee and JPA in April and May that led to the final acceptance in 22. For 24, we have 3 final acceptances in front of us. The first one would be the CalSAWS 58 county system with Accenture. The next one will be Central Print with Gainwell, and then finally the implementation support services provided by Deloitte. Arnold, Dawn, and Duncan will be presenting. Each have a few slides to show the details of what they intend to support for final acceptance, and then I'll do a wrap on what QA will be checking. Finally, the reason we go through this is there are holdback associated with the consortium contracts. This completes the completion of the milestones, the payment of those final holdbacks. So with that, I will pass back to Arnold for the CalSAWS piece.
Thank you, Dan. So if we move on to the next slide, the purpose of the CalSAWS migration final acceptance is to confirm that the requirements related to the CalWIN county migration have been met, that the system is meeting the performance requirements, as well as the fact that there are 0 non-cosmetic effects related to the county migration that remain. The process is going to be based on really a 2-step approach. And so this is our step 1, where we are talking with the PSC now, and also we'll be talking with JPA in February and outlining the process and scope of the migration, overviewing the acceptance and validation that the remaining defects were actually resolved. Current target is 2401 release, but we're also doing release when ready on those when they are ready. And then we are going to be conducting a 30 consecutive day final acceptance period from February 1st through March 1st of 2024. So in March of 2024, we will actually be bringing the results back to both PSC as well as JPA for that 30-day acceptance period. And at that point, and whether it's a director's discretion has been met as well, approval of the CalSAWS migration final acceptance will occur, which will release the payment final holdback that Dan referred to. We move on to the next slide. It's been quite the journey that we have all been embarked on and successfully completed. So again, my sincere congratulations to the counties. You have carried the big burden of the load of migrating from multiple systems, whether it's CalWIN to CalSAWS, adopting a new contact center, new imaging solution, lobby management. So the counties really deserve a lot of the credit for the success of this migration. In addition, we established a tremendous team, cross-vendor team with the consortium as well, with Gainwell, Deloitte, with Accenture, and working with the counties. And that started on March 4th of 2019 at the first point that you see there on the journey map. CalWIN UAT completed in September of 2022. And then we saw our first wave occur on October 31st of 2022. 2023 was a very action-packed year for all of us as we went through wave 2 in February, wave 3 in April, wave 4 in July, wave 5 in September, culminating wave 6 in October. So now as we look ahead and when we approach the final acceptance, 58 counties have been using the CalSA system for 2 months, or really a little about a month and a half right now. But before the final acceptance period, they will have been using it for 3 months. That is when we are focusing on closing out any remaining defects associated with the CalWIN conversion. And we're targeting that the final acceptance period monitoring will occur from February 1st through March 1st of 2024. As I mentioned before, at March 15th, we will be conducting the review of those results in the JPA Board of Directors meeting. And then we will be closing out the project with the CalSA's migration and final acceptance in April of 2024. If we move on to the next slide, the overall CalSA's final acceptance deliverable includes 30 consecutive days of that final acceptance period from during the month of February, where we're looking at the performance requirements. We're confirming that the outstanding non-cosmetic defects related to the migration have been closed out, and that we have produced the summary of the key lessons learned and recommendations for improvements for the CalSA software. Updated requirements traceability matrix, that's what we do, or that's what we use to make sure that everything that was supposed to have been delivered has been delivered, as well as reporting status of the migration requirements in the DD&I, which is the migration project statement of requirements, have been updated to adjust for the changes that have occurred over our 3-year journey. So if we move on to the next slide, this is an example, and if you recall back to the C4 migration, this will be part of our readout to where we address all of the SLAs and the metrics associated or that occurred during that February timeframe, that 30-day period, to demonstrate that we are meeting the system performance and availability requirements. So this is an example. We will obviously have the actuals that come out of that 30-day period. So if you move on to the next slide, our next steps are really to report on the performance of those 30 consecutive days that we have, confirm that our DD&I requirements have been met, address our open defects. Just as a note, taking a snapshot on December 4th, we have 104 open defects related to CalWIN migration, and that have or were deployed by between 2109 release and 2311. Then we also have 64 targeted for minor releases, but for 2401, so our January release, and then 40 targeted for our major releases, 2401 as well. As the counties are going through their daily process, we could be running into additional defects, and those will also be scheduled out for the releases. In addition to that, we still have our ongoing maintenance and operations activities that are outside of the DD&I contract. So we'll continue to be working to address the reporting defects, continue to support the counties with questions. On the contact center, we'll continue our regular support meetings. We'll execute the action plan for completing the rollout of the Enhanced Call Control Panel, ECCP, to our remaining C4 counties, and that we will continue our ongoing maintenance and enhancement of the welcome and authentication bots. Additionally, we'll resolve to open the defects with GHER functionality and focus on the Forge Rock operational and architectural improvements to provide improved stability and reliability. We move to the next slide. I will go ahead and transition to Dawn to talk through Century Print.
Thanks, Arnold. So from a central print perspective, we also have a final acceptance process that we are going through. We did complete the implementation of central print in 3 phases. Our first phase was Los Angeles, then the former C4 counties, and then of course the former Calhoun counties in the 6 waves. We actually produced a draft copy of the final acceptance report each time we went past a phase, even though that wasn't final acceptance. So those draft versions had already been looked at and worked through for phase 1 and phase 2. So really what we're putting together right now and have actually just completed and submitted last Friday was the addition to that report, final acceptance report, of our phase 3. Our final acceptance report, similar to what Arnold was just describing, includes making sure that we have been able to run at the production volumes for a 30-day period after each of those phases, and that we do not have any outstanding defects that we are working through. At this point, we have completed both of those efforts, which is why we did go ahead and submit that final acceptance report in a draft form last Friday. And on the bottom, for those of you who are interested, that is 2 of our really large roll feed printers. And sometimes people find it interesting to realize that those aren't something you get at Staples. On the next page, we can talk a little bit about what does that deliverable look like that I just described. And again, it includes, similar to some of the things that Arnold was just describing, the completed operational checklist for each of those 3 phases I just mentioned, a summary of all the implementation phase metrics, so how many envelopes, how many pages, everything that we did on each day for the 30 days following each of those phase completions. We certify that we have met all the requirements, similar to what Arnold was discussing, and of course QA and the consortium will review that and concur, and that all the deficiencies have been corrected. We took a look at lessons learned, any recommendations to improve services, and we also update the M&O plan and any other documents if they're needed, and the M&O plan being our procedures for doing correspondence. And as Arnold indicated, obviously our ongoing support continues. This really just documents the closure of those 3 phases, but we continue to print every day in large volumes and get that stuff out the door on time. So with that, I will turn it over to Duncan.
Thank you, Dawn. So from an ISS standpoint, there are a few contractual requirements we need to meet to gain final acceptance that are listed at the top of the slide. We have 5 work streams that we've been working across for roughly the last 3 years in terms of implementing, getting all of our 18 Calhoun counties migrated to CalSAWS. If we could go to the next slide, please. So in terms of just some key metrics, we had 95 total requirements as part of the ISS contract. 85 of the 95 have been met, 10 are pending. Basically, our contract closeout and some just making sure that we close out post-implementation and a couple other administrative things between now and the end of January, which is the end of our core contract period. 98% of our deliverables are approved. We have 4 remaining, and those are really our standard status reports and implementation closeout deliverables. We have no open risks or issues, no open action items. The remaining work plan tasks that we had have been transitioned back to the consortium. So we did have some work plan tasks that extended beyond our implementation period related to kiosk deployment and some lobby management work. So we've handed those to Danielle and team, and those will be carried forward to completion. We've completed retrospectives for every Calhoun County. So throughout waves 1 through 5, we were able to synthesize the learnings that came out of those retrospectives and apply them to future waves, and believe that we did have a lot of continuous improvement through waves 1 through 6 across our areas of responsibility. At this point, we have completed our wave 6 retrospectives, which will be part of our completion report as well. I will pause and see if there's any questions. Okay.
Thanks, Duncan. This slide here, you've heard a lot of discussion about requirements. So the bottom half of this slide provides a little bit of detail about how many requirements are out there from the very beginning of the project across the 3 different projects that have been listed. When we started our activities in quality assurance, we loaded all the requirements into a tool that feeds this data, and everything was in not met mode on day 1. And as we went through the project and validated things through testing activities, contract compliance reviews, and all the different types of activities you see in the top half of the slide, we would sign them off as met in plan if they were in design documents, or finally they get to the met stage when they're rolled out to production. So as of last month, this was the snapshot, about 90% complete, which is represented by the 852 in met. The 84 that are met in plan are, as you would expect, of the remaining less than 10% that are in design documents. Things have been agreed to. We're confirming that they're out there either in production, or the requirement itself states it has to be out there a period of time after production, so it can't be signed off yet. When we come back in February and March, we would expect to have zeros in that column to achieve final acceptance for each of the projects. Next slide, please. 2 more slides to go. This one shows the check boxes we're going to review for CalSAWS, which was highlighted by Arnold, and for implementation support, which is highlighted by Duncan. These match contract terms, requirement IDs, and in the case of CalSAWS migration final acceptance, a formal deliverable we have titled there number 96. It comes straight out of the original statement of work. One last slide. Next slide, please. There it is. Central print. Those bullets happen to match what Don presented, which is great. QA is looking at the same thing that the Gainwell team is. We'll be collaborating on signing those things off. And just like Arnold highlighted, our work doesn't complete with final acceptance. We continue on in M&O, forming the type of functions listed here for ongoing release management, functional enhancements, and security and service desk reviews. And with that, I will transition back to Cindy for any questions.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody, for all that information. So any comments or questions from PSC members? Okay, and any comments or questions from the public?
Hi, Cindy, this is Jen Tracy. I just had a quick comment in the chat about where we can get more information about the contact center defects related to GAGR.
Cindy, I'll take that, and I was just crafting a response. It is not, they're 2 different things, and what that slide is showing is general acceptance criteria, not specifics. So I think what Arnold was putting out there, or what was being put out there, was just general criteria on that. In regards to the call center, we have a number of items we're working through. We do owe you a conversation, Jen, so we will reach out to you on contact center and give you a general status update on where we're at on contact center overall. So for example, the bots, which we're going to talk about later on, if there is any outstanding, and most of them are technical items that we're working between the project and the county on network issues, our carrier issues and things like that. So we can give you an update on those particular items. On general assistance, general relief, which is county specific. If there are outstanding defects, we work with that particular county. The counties always work to minimize or eliminate the impact on the particular recipients as we go through those things. We work through those. By the time we get the final acceptance, all of those items need to be rectified. So far on general assistance, general relief, it's not tied to the contact center. We're working with the counties. The counties work to minimize or eliminate any impact. And then on call center, there are more technical items, and we will be reaching out to you to have a conversation on those contact center items as we come closer to final acceptance on that public facing technology.
Thanks, John. So did I hear that we would get some information about whatever defects are related to GAGR, or are we just getting some general updates?
We're working with the counties on those things. We're not like publishing a list of items that we're investigating and all of those types of things on general assistance, general relief on that. We're working with the counties. The counties are trying, are making sure that if there are any, that they're not, or minimizing the impact on the particular county. On the call center, we will work with you on those. That slide again was just general acceptance criteria. Arnold, anything else on that or on the description?
That's right, because that right-hand side of that slide was really outside of the scope of the final acceptance for the migration. Just highlighting that we acknowledge that there are some areas that we're doing additional focus on, so we just wanted to bring that to PSC's attention as well. So it's just more areas of focus that we realize as we transition into M&O. New things will come up and we'll just continue to address them as our standard course of business.
So on that contact center one, we'll have an action item. Laura, I'll ask you to take that with the contact center team that within the next few weeks to schedule something with you to sort of do a general call center update, of which a discussion of any outstanding defects or things more of a technical nature that we're working through with the various carriers.
Okay, thank you for that. And any other public comment? And then there was also a comment in the chat that this was a major accomplishment, bringing everyone together into one system. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that as well. So more to come. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, customer service center update.
All right, if we can move on to the next slide. So in addition to doing our Wave 6 migration on the 30th and the closed cases on November 11th, we also had to go live with Los Angeles County on contact center. And that occurred on November 17th. So very happy to report that go live went smoothly. The daily post-implementation meetings are now weekly, so that's an indicator of the stability that Los Angeles County is seeing with the solution. The post-go live metrics are in line with the pre-go live metrics as far as the calls handled, et cetera. And then there are still some issues that we are working through with the county and continue to triage. And we actually have daily meetings where the project team and the county IT department are also working through to resolve those final issues. So if we move on to the next slide. Next couple of slides would be focused around what we call our bots. These are the voice assist technology components that are integrated with the call center solution for those counties that are subscribing to it. The first one is called the Welcome Bot. So what the Welcome Bot does is it actually uses voice interaction from the caller to determine what queue they should go into for further servicing. What we're seeing is that Welcome Bot is having approximately 66% rate. So that means that the intent is being understood and the caller is being put into the appropriate queue. The other 34% we're digging into, and what we have seen is that of that remaining 34%, a lot of the failure is because there is the caller either has silence on the line, the background noise is of such intensity that the bot is unable to understand what the caller is saying, and the caller is exiting, just going to an agent.
Arnold, can you do me a favor on this? Is the bot is an additive feature, so the interactive voice response system. So the bot isn't necessary to be able to do that. So what does the bot do in addition to the IVR, and how do they work together? Because I don't want any misimpressions coming out of this that says, hey, If the bot isn't working 34% of the time, that means 34% of the calls are failing. No, there is the IVR system that routes the caller and the interaction to the queues that are county specific to be able to do that. So maybe talk about a general call flow, what the system is, and how is the bot designed to enhance that feature, and then what's being done to be able to do that, because I think a little bit of background and context to catch everybody up might be helpful on that.
Certainly. So the bots actually sit, or when a caller calls in and establishes their language preference, if their language preference is either English or Spanish, then they are routed into the bot for the voice assist. And the voice assist is designed for those people that want to or are more comfortable interacting with the systems for the routing using voice commands rather than touch tone on the phone from a IVR perspective or the integrated voice system. So when we press 1 to route to this queue, press 2 to go to this. So it's intended to assist the caller to talk or more interactively ask what their intent is, what they're actually looking for assistance, what program that they are doing. So then what happens is they bypass the actual IVR. If the bot is successful in understanding I want to get to CalFresh, and then they're placed into the CalFresh queue. If during the course of that, they don't want to talk to or go through that bot experience, they can actually exit the experience, and then they go to the IVR and have the other assistance where you're doing the touch tone interaction with the system. So it's meant to offer another channel for callers to obtain the assistance and get routed to the appropriate queue with the county based upon their call flows. So they do have the ability to exit out and go to the IVR as well and go through the other experience. If they are using languages other than English or Spanish, they will go to the IVR as well. So from that perspective, the bots are currently enabled in English and Spanish.
Right. And the bots are not enabled across all of the counties because with some of the early issues that were being experienced, some of the counties said, please turn this off and just have the caller experience the IVR system instead of that bot, as we work to improve the performance of the bot and the customer experience with the bot. Some counties saying, hey, this is a really good experience. We will continue to use that. And as you guys continue to improve it, but some counties have said, turn it off and we'll let you know when we want to turn that back on.
Right. We currently have 7 counties that have elected to turn off the welcome bot at this point in time, and the remainder are continuing to use it.
And John, just a reminder, the 7 counties who opted to turn that off, a lot of that also had to do with their more complex IVR branches and call queues, and making sure that that welcome bot understood exactly where to drop that client off based on what they were verbalizing, on what they were calling in for. And so some of the other counties who have less complex IVR branches and call flows within their call center structure, it integrated well with, but getting into some of those nuances and complexities and multiple branches within some of the other counties was where we needed to have some more focus and analysis to make sure that that bot integrated more seamlessly for the customer, so the customer had a better experience, because the whole point is to streamline that customer's experience based on what they're verbally telling you that they would like to get some more information about, is to drop them into that place within the IVR or within an agent queue, and to bypass a lot of the press 1 here, press 3 here, press 4 here, and to get them more quickly to where they need to go. And so making sure that that's integrated with their specific customized call queues and IVR branches is really where a lot of the focus and work has been most recently, in order to be able to offer that service back to those counties to be able to maybe opt in the future.
So for our PSC members, we are working individually with each one of those counties on those items, along with their customized call flows and things like that, and working individually. And again, the counties are empowered to sort of talk about that. And then Jennifer, we're providing this update, and this could be some additional questions and dialogues as we take that action item and reach out to you and the co-lead specifically to sort of talk through these items and any questions that you may have specifically on those. But I think that's a little bit of important context for the PSC and the attendees of the meeting, that of where the bot sits and whether it's turned off or not. The IVR system is really the driver into the different queues, and this is supposed to enhance that experience. And as you said, Laura, the more complex the queues that are set up for customer service by the counties, probably the more challenging it is for the bot to be able to recognize those items. And again, 7 of our counties have decided to turn that off because of the complexity associated with that. As we make the bot more sophisticated, they may examine that going forward.
Right. And I know Jen Tracy had also wanted some more information on the details of those flows. And so in our follow-up meeting, in our action item that we took at the beginning of the meeting, we'll make sure that in that follow-up meeting that we walk through a sample flow so that Jen can become more familiar with how that bot interacts with the IVR and with the call center solution. So we'll definitely include that as part of the agenda with her.
Thank you.
And so the work that we're doing with the bots as we go forward is we're continuing to review the call interactions. So we are able to see the transcripts of real callers coming in. And we are identifying ways that we can further improve the experience and the accuracy of the bot so that we can increase that 66% rate to something higher. What we are seeing is that there are, for the Spanish speakers, giving them a little more time to be able to speak out their social security numbers. So adjusting that length, adjusting the number of tries in order to provide authentication or an answer, but reducing that from 3 tries to 2 tries just to streamline the flow through. So there's a number of items that we are identifying through the review of those call flows that will continue to input and change within the bot so that we can actually increase the success rate for both the English and the Spanish language. And then as AWS Lex continues to offer other languages, we can look to expand the number of languages that the bots can interact within as well. So we are currently working with AWS on the roadmap as to when those next set of languages will become available. So if we move to the next, this is around the authentication bot. And so this is where the authentication bot lies is that if people are already using their voice for authentication, you bypass the bot because you're already authenticated. Otherwise, the authentication bot gives you the ability to enter your case number, date of birth, the 2 criteria that are required to authenticate prior to being passed through to the queue. And so again, we're seeing roughly a 66% success rate there. Much of the same issues. There's roughly 7-8% that we can actually influence around adjusting timings, adding some additional prompts for the callers so that they know or know how better to interact with the prompt or with the bot, and potentially even changing some of the introductions so that they understand that they can exit out and go directly to the IVR and talk to an agent rather than go through the bot experience. So the authentication bot is actually live with all the counties. It was just the welcome bot that was selected by those 7 to turn on. We are seeing the authentication rates increase due to 1, I think, caller familiarity, and 2, because we have been implementing changes. So we saw a 3% increase in the success rate over the previous month. So overall, we are continuing to just look at the analytics on the bots, the user experience. looking to continuously improve that. This will be ongoing, not just the one time after go live, but this will be ongoing as we continue to improve the performance of those bots and improve the user experience on those. So then if we move to the next slide, one of the other work streams that we've been working on in addition to the LA Go Live and each of the Calhoun counties Go Lives is going back to our C4 counties and rolling out the same enhanced call control panel that is being used by the Calhoun counties being used by LA. And so this work has been going on a separate delivery path with its own schedule. We've gone through 3 phases of migrating the counties onto ECCP. We're in our 4th and final phase with our 4 final counties. And so if you look at it, we're targeting that Yuba and Humboldt will go live on the 5th, Monterey around the January 11th, and then San Bernardino somewhere between the 18th of January and February 1st. We're looking to finalize that with the county as well. And so then that will just bring all counties to the same standard on the ECCP, the same technology stack, which will then make a consistent experience across for both maintenance perspective from the project team, as well as being able to better integrate across all the counties as well.
So Arnold, please correct me on this, but a little bit of background was, as the former C4 counties had a call control panel and just a regular call control panel to be able to run their operations, that was meeting their customer service needs, what they were doing and things like that. As we went into migration and looked at the requirements for migration, that call control panel took enhancements to that. So the E is enhanced call control panel to be able to meet those migration requirements for the complexity that was coming in. So those were rolled out, tested, worked on, and those items started to be rolled out with the Calhoun counties to be able to meet those requirements, but they weren't mandated and pushed on the C4 counties until that took place. And we had a resource constraint, roll those out. Of course, LA wanted those enhanced features as well as they were going through that. And a lot of the enhanced features were really administrative, how you work with the agents and those types of things on the back end. So now, since we have completed that migration effort and there's stability there and there's an increased list of functionality that could be made available to the former C4 counties in the operation of their call centers, those things are offered to them and now being rolled out. Then we come to a single technical platform that reduces the maintenance of cost different tools as we go forward. And that's why the former C4 counties sort of got rolled out last in this sort of continuum of how we sort of manage those things. It will reduce our operations burden and then bring everybody up to that standard process.
That's correct.
Okay, so again, a little bit of context on that.
All right, thank you, John.
Yeah.
And so with that, Cindy, I think I can return it back to you for questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any questions or comments from the PSC members? Okay, John, I just wanted to confirm when you were talking about the bots and the counties that had the hold on the bots. And so am I understanding correctly that the project will work with the counties individually through their committee meetings or such on finalizing when it can be rolled back out to the counties, or was that?
Yeah, we think that we have made some great improvements to those. It is the county's operation. So the counties are making the decision on that. We're saying, here's what's available, here's the information. But if a county doesn't want to turn it back on, there's nothing the project is going to do to say you have to turn it back on. If you view this as an enhanced feature, then by all means, let us know when you want to turn that back on. But the counties are in the driver's seat on that. And some counties, with the complexity of their call flows and things like that, might say, you know what, it really doesn't help out, but we want to use the IVR system to be able to do that. And that's a more seamless experience. So we leave that to the counties.
Okay.
What we wanted to do is, we know that there was a less than optimal experience on some of those things, and we've improved that experience, but really it's to enhance the operation, and we're leaving that to the counties to make that decision and working with them individually on that.
John, another note that Cindy might be interested in as well, is we're taking a look at, once we've completed those enhancements and those tuning efforts, is making that available in your model office, which is your test or training environment, where then you can kind of test drive that experience and how that's integrating in with your contact center flows, so that you can experience that in a non-production way, to hopefully assess that for yourself, and then make some determinations at the county level if that's something that can bring you all benefit specifically. So we'll be working with our technical folks to roll that out to that non-production environment, and we'll work with each of those counties on that timeline and when that might be available, and work with you all to coordinate some of that validation effort.
Okay, yeah, that sounds great. And then we'll be notified like when.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
You'll be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cindy, this will be after the holidays. So at the new year, we have an opportunity to get those enhancements pushed out, validated, and then it'll be sometime after the new year. We'll start working with those counties when we feel like we've got a good smoke tested, validated product out there for you all to take a look at.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Okay, and any comments from the public? Okay, great. Then it looks like we'll move on to the next item, project risks.
Okay, continuing on project risks, just hitting the overall risk exposure. So the total number of risk and issue count has been reduced to 11. As a result, you have seen a slight uptick in the risk exposure because the majority of those risks that are still open are amber risks. And so as you reduce that number, that you're seeing that drift of that count up to the 1.42. But we continue to mitigate all these risks, and we'll go through in detail. We'll see that most of these are just long-term risks that we're monitoring from a project perspective versus any sort of acute point in time risk that is dramatically increasing our risk exposure. So if we move on to slide 33, I'll call on some of my friends to help out here as we go through this, and we'll start with risk 102 and have Holly walk us through that.
Yeah, so this first risk is about, it's an ongoing risk, as Arnold was mentioning earlier. About our funding, it's something we track very closely, because should funding be impacted, it could have an impact on our schedule or scope, that capacity we have available to maintain and continue operations and make enhancements. And we mitigate this risk by monitoring our costs closely, ensuring we have very timely and thorough updates to any funding requests we're working on. It is currently a low risk since we do have approved funding for this year. However, we do know there are concerns with the state budget situation due to revenue shortfalls. So we'll be continuing to work closely with our state partners as we move through new funding requests, specifically as we work through our CalSAWS funding request, our implementation advanced planning document that we're working on right now. And again, just work with the state. We'll be watching for the proposed governor's budget to come out in January to do another status check.
Thank you, Holly. And then risk 203 regarding project communications. Peggy, if I could have you talk through this one.
Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. This risk is about our project communications and having them continually evolve so that we're meeting the needs of our audience and our stakeholders. The most recent update is that we met earlier this week to, talk through this risk and see how it's going to evolve. We haven't landed on it yet. There's still a lot of things we want to discuss and work through to evolve this risk to meet the needs of our 58 as we move into M&O. So we have another meeting scheduled to continue to talk through this, and there's a couple of components of this risk that we can put to bed, if you will, and others we need to streamline the way they're noted in the risk. So more to come on this risk as we work through it.
For PSC members and for the public attending, we just know with a system of this size and scale across the state that communications is always a challenge. And we have our mechanisms, and I think we've worked very, very hard through the migration and even into our maintenance and enhancement phase to continue to push things out through our public website, through AskCalSAWS, through our CITs, through our CRFIs, through all of those mechanisms. But and then sort of the maturing of processes with our stakeholder engagement process, with our state, with the collaboration model, with all those things. So we're pushing into those items, but know that continual examination of communication processes, this will always remain open. I think it will always continue to remain amber. I don't think there's going to be any time that says you guys overall are communicating great on all of these things. It's because that's a huge job that we have, and we're going to continue to work on that. And there's some great things that we've done great, and some things that we need to improve on. So this will be a continual item with strategies to be able to mitigate, looking at our website, looking at the CITs, looking at different items when we push things out to the counties to make sure we're talking with the right people. So I think as Peggy was giving her update, they're looking at strategies, other things on continual improvement, but I think this is going to be a continual improvement item that will have long-term and as we go into our M&O and M&E.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
And so those are the two CalSAWS project management risks. Now we'll transition into our maintenance and operations production risks. I'll start out with risk 201. And I saw Karen, you came on, so I'll let you speak through that.
You're on mute, Karen.
I can't hear you.
It's not working.
No.
Lisa, do you wanna?
Yeah.
You wanna
So,
tag in?
so continue on, and we have a lot of policy coming in the new year, now that we're through migration. So we are working closely with both DHCS and CDSS on, that new policy and reviewing those ACLs before they're published. As we head into the next PSC, we will be kind of providing more detail on those key policy items that are happening and where we're at with those and what you can look forward to seeing in the new year.
Right. So, we always look at that, especially going into a legislative session of exceeding capacity, funding, the amount of policy.
Yes.
There you go.
Sorry.
You're on, Karen.
Sorry.
So we always look at just our capacity and do that. And we know that there's a significant amount of change from the legislative perspective, from the county perspective, from the public perspective, and we try to balance all of those things. And we have to balance them in regards to the budget that we have and our resources that we have and our ability to do that. And I think over the last several years, we've done better communicating where those are and roadmaps and releases and working with our state and legislative partners as they're looking at legislation on when those things should be enacted. So again, that will be continued to be monitored. There'll be more and more coming, especially as we get into this legislative session. And it will be a topic of conversation as legislation gets landed on when we're going to be able to do that and work through those items. So
Thank you, John. You captured it. Sorry, I called in from my phone. I'll be able to do 239 when we get there.
very good. Thanks, Karen.
All right, Michelle, you can take us through to 208.
I will, thank you. So I believe we created this risk back in 2022 when CalHERS was getting ready to migrate to the cloud. We were seeing some delays with their readiness for releases. And so we created this risk so we would, closely monitor activities related to CalHERS and the team has done a really good job, both on the CalHERS side and the CalSA side, collaborating and working together to make sure releases are documented and they're ready in time. And additionally, we wanted to monitor this due to migration, because any timelines that slipped for CalHERS could potentially have impacted some of the migration activities. So now that we've wrapped up migration and we're on a good pace with CalHERS, we're actually proposing to close this risk moving forward. And so that's my update. Arnold?
Thank you, Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Karen, we can do 239 now.
Okay, thank you, Arnold. So on 239, this is regarding the lack of consistent state language translations. We have made progress in this area. We are working with both CDSS and DHCS to try and get everyone on the same software, which would help us out significantly as we put translations into CalSAs. And so as we move ahead, if those are able to come to fruition, that may lower the risk on this item 239.
All right, thank you, Karen. Hey, Lynn, would you be able to cover 246 for us?
Sure. Morning, everyone. So this one is related. As we were getting ready for standing up Benefits Cal, we knew and a lot of counties have been utilizing the Get CalFresh application to send forward those applications. And so there was an analysis done. We were looking at the pieces that we need to add to Benefits Cal to help meet some of those components that are within the Get CalFresh. They've done that analysis on there. And where we find ourselves now is we've done what's called a parity list. And these are items that you will see, and you'll start seeing them on our Benefits Cal roadmap of putting in and introducing functionality that helps support a lot of those efforts, so that Get CalFresh, it is targeted to be sunsetted. So this is in preparation to it so that we don't harm the general public by turning off one thing and flooding over here when they had an expectation of something else was going to be there. So we're building out that. It's an item that we're working on with CDSS and Cook for America on what those items look like and what and the pieces of functionality that we need to add. So it's an effort. A piece of it also includes Social Security Administration, with the being Social Security administrators or administration will act as an assister for some of the Get CalFresh items too. So it's being rolled into, they'll use Benefits Cal as well.
Right. Thank you. And 290 as well on the ROI.
Again, yes. So this one is the release of information related to Benefits Cal. This was the functionality that we paused back in May of 2023, based off of the JPA board and the consensus at that time, due to concerns that the counties were expressing, trying to get an understanding how to take this brand new policy that was vague, a little bit of conflicting items that were in there, trying to get this resolved. So the result is we formed a work group, and I will be touching on how that work group continues to move forward a little bit later in the agenda, but it's active. It is definitely something that has been worked across multiple channels, including CDSS, DHCS. We have CWDA engaged, that we have the stakeholders, and of course CalSAs.
All right. Thank you, Lynn. And then Sean, I know 296, 297, we actually have an informational topic on this, so I'll let you do a high level on 296, 297.
So the risks for 296 and 297 are we're preparing all the counties and some of the challenges they're facing with both state fiscal reports, which is the focus of 296, as well as 297, which is focused on everything else, kind of management, operational reporting, ad hoc. We are continuing to meet with the counties. We have a lot of information in flight, and I will cover it a little bit more in the slides in the future here. And we do have a pretty heavy topic agenda for the conference in January, where we'll go through a lot of this in detail and provide a lot of good information that will help the counties kind of understand overall reporting in CalSAWS.
I think that's great, John. And we're going to go out, as you said, go into it in a little bit more detail, but putting it as a risk, PSC members, I think we're acknowledging, we've heard the counties. We know that there's some challenges in that. We want to be able to track that transparently. We want to be able to have that risk, and it sort of helps us continually communicate on that. So this will be an ongoing topic as we work through that. And a little bit later, Sean's going to go over the strategy and how this is being addressed.
All right. Cindy, with that, we can return it back to you for questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. And just really quickly, wanted to confirm, John, I'm pretty sure that this particular item will continue on the PSC agenda then to address the risks now that in the M&O environment.
Yeah, Cindy, this will be like the ongoing risk like we used to have during DD&I just a few short months ago, where we went wave by wave on the risks and looked at that. This is now sort of the format for M&O, M&E on how we would be tracking those risks. So this will be a standing agenda item.
Great, sounds good. Okay, any other questions or comment from the PSC members?
Hi, Cindy, I have a comment. So for 239, I appreciate the additional information on the translation of the state language translation. We just been going through roadshows through the entire county, and this is an area that staff have said, hey, we would really like this to be an enhancement where more forms are available in different languages. So appreciate you guys sharing that information. So thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. We know, it's interesting as we look at all of our forms and notices and our procedures with two different state departments on this. What's the format they provided in? What's translations they have? And especially as new policy change comes out, sometimes all of that policy changes and the new notices and things like that actually have us taking a step back because they're not all translated at the same time. So the team's been working diligently with our state partners to say, can we get up to a tool set that makes it easier operationally? So we can just take it and sort of plug and play a little bit. We still have a little bit of ways to go on that, but there does look to be positive progress. And then, as we get these forms and notices that were from the state, some of the languages other than English and Spanish take longer to be able to do. And then trying to say, okay, we'll get in the English and Spanish, but on the other languages, can we have a timeline so that we can queue those things up in a more efficient manner? So there's a lot of effort that's taking place on that. We know that's a really important effort. We've heard from the public and we've heard from our counties speaking with one voice on this for sure.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. Any other comments from the PSC? And moving on to the public, I see Jen.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I had a question regarding the risk 201 about the pace of policy changes. I know that there are already some forums where counties can give feedback to the state departments about, how policies are being shaped or whatever. And I'm wondering if there's other forums or opportunities where there's as policies being developed in a way that will best support automation, or where automation like if there's limitations in automations that can be accounted for in the way policy is being shaped. Like obviously we don't want automation to drive policy. But if there are like tweaks or like small changes that could still, where the policy still meets the intention, like, is that something that already happens in terms of supporting a quicker development of the automation of a policy? Or I'm just kind of curious if there's a way to collaboratively inform policy as we are moving more and more into an automation world so that policies can more quickly be automated.
Just a quick comment on that. I think we try to coordinate with our state partners on that through SRFRAs and SCRFRAs. But that's the process they use as policy changes are being looked at on automation timelines, need for supplemental funding, and for automation to provide some input so that they can be taken into consideration as they're looking at the legislative changes. And I think that is the concept that is in the question is something that we continually do to say, how can we provide some input through our various sessions on how does this impact automation, and that our state partners in looking at the policy can take that into consideration as they look at potentially modifying policy that could be that could streamline the experience. So there isn't any separate forums. I think the SRFRA process does a lot of that, and then in the existing forums. Lisa, was there anything else you'd want to add to that?
The only thing I was going to add is I think, where we see a lot of time sensitive policy, for example, the continuous coverage unwinding, we are doing just as suggested, Jen, working directly with the policymakers, Teresa at DHCS, and having weekly sessions to discuss waivers that are coming up and what would that mean for automation? How could automation be done as fast as possible to support those waivers? So we definitely are moving in that direction. I think there's more opportunity. We talked about the correspondence. We're definitely looking for ways to streamline across policy and automation so that we can implement all these things as quickly as possible.
And in response to the chat, usually the SRFRAs and SCRFRAs are done prior to policy as things are being looked at. That isn't 100%. Sometimes there might be an existing policy and there might be something that comes out, but I think a lot of times are more ideas and forward looking where a policy hasn't been set. But that's a general rule, not a specific rule. There's exceptions to that where there are existing policies that talk about maybe enhancing experiences on those. So, and Karen, Michelle, anything that you want to add in on the SRFRA process on that?
No, I think you both captured it. The majority of the time, I would say it is before policy is finalized, and sometimes it's a place where we discuss options. And so the state can choose options, for various levels of automation.
And we have to consult with our counties to say what is operational based on their staffing and what they can do, and does it need to be fully automated or partially automated, and what's the speed to be able to do that.
Christiana and Fatima engaged in this throughout.
Pardon me?
Is it Christiana and the CWDA team engaged throughout as well?
Okay, great. Thank you. It seemed like that responded to that question. I don't see any other public comment hands up or anything in the chat. So thank you for that presentation, and we'll move on to the next item, which is release and policy updates.
All right. Good morning, everyone. So we'll start with our continuous coverage unwinding updates. And I know Teresa's out there to give a couple of updates this morning.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's hard to believe that we are already close to the halfway point for the continuous coverage unwinding. And so now we're really shifting our focus into looking at where we are at this point in time and making sure that we're really on track to meet the CMS requirement, which is to complete the redeterminations for all our Medi-Cal members by the end of May of 2024. And so just to kind of let folks know how we're really supporting counties in that space, DHCS and CalSAWS are doing some very targeted sessions around tools and resources and policy strategies to be able to address the outstanding renewals in an efficient way as possible. We partnered together to actually present on 11/28. We actually recorded these sessions and provided them to all of the counties so that they would be able to access them at a later date, particularly because this was very heavy in click-throughs of how to access different tools and resources within the system.
Thanks, Teresa. So in addition, so following that session we had on 11/28, and I can't remember, there were several hundred people on that call. It was clear that there was just different levels of familiarity with the report in the system and accessing reports. We are, still just migrating. So we did hold an additional session. We at the end of the Medi-Cal CMSP committee meeting on 12/6. We also did the deep dive on outstanding renewals. So there was some overlap with the audience. There was some new folks, but we wanted to do it one more time and go through and start with some of just accessing reports, security requirements. So we've had multiple sessions here. Again, if RMs, if you hear anything from a county, feel free to reach out to me. But we are trying to get this information out as many times as possible in different forums so the counties have that at the ready.
Thanks, Lisa. And kind of speaking of different forums, we know that sometimes those group settings maybe do not meet the needs of our county partners. And so beginning on December 18th, we are also doing one-on-one technical assistance with counties to be able to provide specific strategies and assistance for the needs of that particular county. We may be bringing along some other partners we think might be helpful in that specific county's needs. This could include our CalSAWS partners, or in some instances, even our CalHERS partners. Counties have an opportunity to request any one-on-one technical assistance sessions with DHCS at any time, and they can contact me directly to be able to schedule those sessions. So that's really where we're at with the unwinding pieces. Of course, we know that there is a couple of other big changes happening on January 1st. So if we go to the next slide, we can just kind of talk about where we're at on the other big implementations for the elimination of assets. We were waiting on one last letter to provide counties guidance, and that had to do with transfer of assets. That letter has been posted as ACWDL 23-28. At this point, all policy letters for the January 1 implementation have been released. We've provided training sessions to both our local county partners as well as the community to really educate about this particular implementation. And we believe we are ready to go on January 1st with the elimination of assets. Another really big change is the ages 26 to 49 adult expansion. There are already activities that have taken place for this particular expansion. CalSAWS completed the batch run to move those individuals that were in restricted scope coverage into full scope coverage. We also know that because of the continuous coverage unwinding, there are more complications than ever before with some of those batch runs. And so DHCS, in partnership with CalSAWS, has actually identified anyone where maybe the batch run was not successful and have posted those individuals directly into beds, so that as of January 1st, everyone in the state of California eligible to Medi-Cal will have access to full scope coverage. We're getting lots of questions from counties, as expected, about some of the processing of the age 26 to 49 adult expansion. The team is ready to answer all those questions and have been extremely responsive. So please feel free to direct counties our way if any questions come up around the processing of these cases. And with that, those are the big updates for DHCS on the unwinding and implementations.
Thanks, Teresa. So on the next slide, so as mentioned last month, we had a number of system changes going in to support the adult expansion and the asset elimination, from rule updates to notice changes, form changes. So where we stand today, we have implemented all those changes in the system. And as Teresa mentioned, we have run those batch processes for both the Magi Medi-Cal members and the non-Magi Medi-Cal members. And we too are here as we head into the new year to support the counties with any questions that come up and monitoring ticketing queues as we move forward. One thing I failed to mention here on this slide, but end of last week, we also did run for the continuous coverage unwinding our Magi Medi-Cal members. We ran the stable income waiver process. So that was run in December for our February renewals. So we did advance over 50,000 programs there for those that met the stable income waiver criteria. That was the first run where we were running through batch versus a data change. And so information has been provided out on that run as well. Next slide. Just a quick highlight. So, we're not at the new year yet, but we are already testing our January release. You see some key dates up there for January. We about 50 odd items in that release, ranging from some policy changes. We have some lobby management updates. We have correspondence updates, adding in automating the informational packet for those Medi-Cal members that go through the ex parte process. Testing is going well. We're over 50% executed and passed through this morning on that release. We also have a coordinated release in February. Every February, we have a release with CalPERS, our CalPERS system. So we are in test with that release as well. It has some key technical changes that will be transparent to the users, but upgrading some of the messaging components that we use for that interface, as well as I think there's one functional change that we have going in there for the interface and verifications. And then we continue to work through our already working on our March and May releases. And then at the bottom, some big news since we met last month. We did run 2 of our COLAs last week. So we ran the Happy COLA as well as the SSA COLA. SSA COLA ran very well. It finished a day ahead of schedule, and the results of that COLA were published out to the counties. We are still in COLA season. We are testing for the SSI CalFresh COLA that is going to run at the beginning of January. Again, that's a multi-step COLA. We do require data updates. So we send a file to meds, they send us a file back. We need to successfully consume that file before we run that COLA. So all planning and coordination is taking place as we speak for that COLA. And then we are planning already for our FPL COLA. Current target date is the first weekend in March, and that is dependent on getting those final letters. In prior years, we typically have received them around the end of January. So we continue to start planning for that COLA as well. Along with, we have multiple priority releases as well as release when ready. We did talk a bit about correspondence earlier. We are putting through about 30 correspondence changes each month through our release when ready, adding a lot of, as Sandra mentioned, adding a lot of translations to various forms and notices of action. So that continues to be a busy work stream as well. I think that's the last slide.
Hey, Lisa, I think for the SSI COLA, I think I should say January 6th. Right.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. The triangle's in the right place.
Oh,
the tag is.
sorry. Yes, to say 1-5. Sorry. Trying to push my glasses up.
You said the right thing, just the chart says.
Oh, you are correct. Back to you, Cindy.
Okay, great, thank you. Appreciate all the information and all the extra information and meetings about the unwinding and the reports. It's been helpful to walk some of that through and kind of learn the things we didn't know. So thank you for that. Any comments or questions from any of the PSC members on this item? Any comments or questions from the public? Okay, I don't see any, so we'll move on next to the benefits cal update. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Good morning, all. In terms of the benefits cal updates today, as we are getting closer to year end for 2023, we wanted to walk our steering committee through some of the key metrics. Also wanted to put these numbers into perspective of how much 2023 contributed to these numbers and the context of the system usage relative to other access channels. Through our journey since September 2021, up until December 7th of this year, we received over 3.4 million applications and 1.2 million renewals in production from the customers, and exceeded more than 3.3 million customer accounts, unique customer accounts, and close to 9,000 CBO accounts in production. From the daily login activities, we are observing up to 200,000 daily login activity in production, pretty good trends in terms of the volume for daily, and over 35 million documents uploaded by the customers so far. In terms of the applications and renewables, out of these 3.4 million applications, we received close to 2 million new applications. And to put this into perspective, like it corresponds to roughly the 60% of the total received in 2023. And over 800 renewals out of these 1.2 million total, like corresponds to over 65% received in the calendar year 2023 in production. And similarly, on the account management side, out of these 3.3 million unique customer accounts, over 1.8 million of these accounts, which is roughly around 56% of these, received in the year 2023. And similarly, on the CBO accounts, the percentage is even higher. 6,000 out of these 9,000, close to 9,000 CBO accounts created in calendar year 2023, which is over 60%, to put these into perspective for you. In terms of the adoption and to put these usage metrics in the context of relative to other access channels, few highlights to share here. July through September of this year, 70% of the incoming CalWorks and the CalFresh applications are received through Benefits Cal. And it is lower for medical applications, around like 36% that we see for that quarter for the medical applications. Preliminary observations from the other states, we are still collecting more data to do a benchmark. But if you compare California with other states, there are a few states that where the majority of the applications come through their self-service portal channels, where they don't have people coming into a physical office location. But in average, other states, we see between 40 to 50% of the new applications are submitted through the online access channels. So relatively speaking, California has a much higher adoption rate on the application side. And on the renewal side, we are close to 30% range for renewals and the periodic reports. It's completed through or submitted through Benefits Cal. And if we compare this number with other states too, it's also, this renewal number also significantly drops in other states. In national average is around 20% of the customers submitting their renewals online. So same around the periodic reports, we are slightly above the national average as well. As I mentioned, though, we are still collecting data, and we are going to share more information when we start 2024 in terms of benchmarking with other states. Next slide, please. In terms of upcoming system changes and release and roadmap for Benefits Cal, I will just touch on key highlights here for the steering committee today. Since we met last time in November, release 23.11 deployed to production. And one important item to highlight for this release is we heard that the customer feedback on the document upload, indicating that customers shouldn't need to have a user account to upload a document. So we heard that feedback and implemented change, also a collaboration model, a priority item, to allow users without an account to upload documents. Also, with the November release, electronic EBT 2259 form becomes downloadable and customers can submit the form online through Benefiscal, claiming if the customer is claiming either cash or food benefit theft. So they should be able to download, fill out the form and upload securely through Benefiscal. And this month in December, release 2312 is scheduled on December 19, with series of items, improvements coming up. And a key highlight here to share, we have a new messaging for customers to inform them with the updated time, which the renewal or the periodic reports links will be available on their dashboard. So there is also an important policy change will be effective as of January 1st of this year to remove the asset-related questions for only medical-only applications, which is going to be effective, as I mentioned, after the year end. Next slide, please. And if we take a look at what we have in January and February releases, key highlights here, there's 2 changes coming up primarily focused on to improve the document upload experience for customers. With the revisions are being made to drop-down list for the document upload feature based on the UCD, user-centered design sessions and the customer feedback we have been having recently. One change is scheduled for January release 2401, which will be followed by a second improvement coming up on the February release, which is 2402 on the document upload area. Another item to highlight here is an improvement prioritized by collaboration model coming up as well in application renewal and the SAR7 status tracker displayed on the customer dashboard to make it more intuitive for the end users. So these are coming up early 2024. There is also, we will also continue to conduct set of user-centered design research labs with customers for the upcoming collaboration model prioritized enhancements listed here too. Next slide, please.
Hey, owner, just real quick. Just want to draw a link back to public comment. I think Marcella brought up an item on sort of the tracker that had been implemented. And I think you show a December release there. It says update the messaging to inform users the updated time in which the RE and SAR and SAR7 link will be available. I think that probably speaks to that public comment of some challenges with that functionality and some enhancements that are coming through to make it more usable to the public.
That is correct, John.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. That is correct. And there is also, we heard there one production item we are fixing this month in December to improve that functionality as well for to display of the not to display the discontinued or inactive cases for customers which were creating confusion. It was also, I think, brought up by Marcella in the public comments.
Good. So I want to just acknowledge we've heard that public comment. We've acknowledged it. We've heard it before this time, and we are queuing up those changes to go through and look for improvements as we get into the new year on that functionality with these enhancements as we come through. Thank you, owner.
Thank you, John. So, and as we look forward, there is a series of items that is coming up from policy planning, get coverage parity standpoint that Lynn highlighted earlier, that we will be working on in the near future, including the items such as ABOT, CFAP expansion, CAPI, homeless assistance, and SSA assisted applications. Some of these items, as Lynn highlighted, we already started working on them, such as this get coverage parity items or the SSA assisted applications that we started working our stakeholders. Lynn, anything that you want to add or highlight from these upcoming items standpoint?
No, and I think, owner, the only other thing, owner and I recognize this is all great information, but we may see a slight change in the format and how it's presented as we continue moving forward in the future, because we're finding it's great information. Everybody wants that, but I think we just need a little more, some other visuals and everything else. So be prepared. We'll be working on that. It's a continual evolution, you know, that we know that things are going on. We get all these policy things, and of course, Benefits Cal is the center of attention for much of that, and being present and forward for everybody that we want to keep it updated and refined as well. So as we like Karen and Lisa were talking about some of these policy items coming up, you're going to see them captured in here to a certain extent too, while they're not specific to an enhancement for Benefits Cal, but they are very important for both our counties and for the clients that are using the tool.
Thank you, Lynn. Next slide, please.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
All right, as mentioned before, it's the release of information through Benefits Cal, an update. I have talked a little bit before about there's a user roles chart that was developed. It was an item that both CDSS and DHCS have worked on. It outlines a lot of the criteria and who can access the information in some of those roles, especially when it comes down to the Benefits Cal. So that chart is nearly finalized, if you will. The work group has looked at it and they provided their input. Both CDSS and DHCS have said that they will include that chart in a future errata or a new state letter. They're looking at an errata right now, but they're going to include that information as well. Our last meeting, we identified another version of it, probably a little bit simpler chart, but that is going to be addressing particular scenarios for if there's contracts that are being held. We've had a lot of conversations around if a CBO contract is held with the state, what does that mean? If a CBO contract is held with the county, what does that mean? And what happens when it crosses county lines? So it comes down into where do those responsibilities lie? There's been some conversation about where does the legal responsibilities lie? So this chart is intended to help provide some guidance and some of those nuances. So both CDSS and DHCS have said that they will work on that. We'll be presenting that and we'll work it through with the ROI work group as well. Again, it's all intended to help get this clarification of all the policy. What does it mean for the counties? What does it mean for the public? What does it mean for the CBOs, the advocates? What does it mean for the assister? You know, those types of roles and trying to get it worked through. So we do have meetings. We continue to schedule them out. Our next meeting is right after the holidays in January and going into February.
Oops, talking on mute. Thank you, Lynn. Appreciate it. So next topic we would like to share a brief update with our steering committee today is about the time clocks. CalWorks time clocks is an upcoming feature that we will be added to the system to allow customers to view their time left on aid out of 60 months CalWorks time limit. And of course, we will provide information and help text to the customers on what that means for them, as well as allow them to request extensions. Originally, UCD and design activities started in February 2023 for earlier this year in February for this functionality, both on the Benefits Cal and the Cal side of the system side of the changes, and with a plan to complete implementation in November timeframe. Given the fact that the Calvin waves and the migration has been going on, the currently planned deployment date is March 2024 to allow more time for counties following the Calvin migration, so the counties can be ready following the post-migration activities. So right now we are, we use this additional information. We use this additional time to conduct more customer labs, and as we look forward, we are marching toward March 2024 date as for deployment standpoint for the time clocks. Lynn, anything that I did not cover that you want to chime in for the time clocks?
No, you covered it great. Thanks, Sonara. We were beginning to get some questions. What happened to time clocks? Because we had reported out, we said we needed to delay and everybody was in concurrence that it was good to go ahead and delay it. So then I've been getting some periodic questions about prime opportunity. Let's get our folks engaged because now we'll pick up with regular activities. We're probably going to see these types of updates now that we're past migration. So we're working on something like this that kind of gives you a little snapshot on where what the progress is, where we think some of the points are that people are going to be engaged, because you can do some more planning around that. So this is, again, thank you, owner, and your team for putting some of this together. This is something else that we're working on and trying to provide that information on a periodic basis.
Thank you, Lynn. Next slide, please. Next, another topic that we would like to provide an update to our steering committee is when we met last time in October in the steering committee meeting, we had shared there is some list of areas that we have been tracking from the customer experience standpoint, in alignment with what we have been hearing from the counties, UCD channels, and along with what we have been seeing in the service desk tickets as well. And these areas are document upload, case linking, and account management. And today, we want to briefly provide you an update on these areas as it relates to where we are right now, since we met last time, and the game plan going forward. Starting with the document upload, in terms of where we stand with the doc upload in production, we have over 10 million documents, and images submitted transferred to CalSAWS imaging system since June through November of this year, with over 99% success rate. Of course, we have been hearing the feedback from different channels, various channels through our UCD channels as well, while the users may be experiencing difficulties. And one of them was requiring an account to upload a document. And to resolve that, as I mentioned earlier today, we implemented a change in the November 23.11 release to allow the document uploads by users without an account. So it happened last month. And another item to highlight on the document upload is we observed in some instances that users were selecting incorrect document types in the dropdown, which may affect the processing time in the downstream. We took this feedback and observation to our UCD labs and the customer labs for analysis, and currently 2 enhancements coming up in January and February of 2024 to improve the document upload experience. So also want to, of course, with these changes, want to make the drop-down values more intuitive and improve the downstream processing as well. This is where we are in terms of the doc upload. Next slide, please. In terms of the account, total, and we see 1 million, almost over 1 million login attempts in a week in total on a weekly basis, with 99% system success. I hope you can still hear me because I think my Wi-Fi dropped and came back. But in terms of how many people are able to log in, we see a good percentage with the success standpoint, but we have noted 2 main observations here. One of them was usage of the one-time verification code, especially when user adds an optional phone number during the account setup. Since we met last time, we continue to take these into our UCD channels and get these customers' inputs and made revisions to on the text for verification code and on the screen to improve usability. And we will also continue to work with our collaboration model group, counties, and the consortium security team for progressive account creation and conduct UCD research with end users in 2024 to make the one-time validation code experience more seamless and intuitive for end users. So next slide, please. In terms of the case linking, to start with where we are since June of this year, we are averaging roughly around 140,000 successful case linking attempts on a monthly basis last 6 months. And from the customer experience standpoint, though, we have been hearing that the few customers are making phone calls to locate specific case information after a successful case link, or asking questions why the case link is not automatically completed, where the caseworker need to look at. So to assist with the customers, what we did was we added an enhanced messaging for the users on the dashboard, where the case link is not automatically completed, and what it means for them, because a caseworker has to take a look at it, right? So we added some kind of a more user-friendly message to explain that situation. And after these actions, we have not identified any system like benefits cal system related technical issue so far to be resolved on the case linking attempts. But of course, the usability is the important aspect of the situation. And going forward, we will continue to monitor and gather inputs from the counties, the customers, and the CBOs on the customer messages and their overall experience, and utilize the UCD channels to enhance the usability on the case linking as well. With that, Cindy, I will pause here for any questions from our steering committee.
Hey, great. Any questions from the PSC members? And then I do see a couple of questions from the public. And first, there is a chat in the chat from Jen, so I'll acknowledge Jen first.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to find out more about like, what is the process before releasing functionality, having the renewal tracker pick up.
Is that me? I'm having a hard time hearing. 1 second.
Okay. And she did comment in the chat as well, in case you can pull that up.
Should I wait or?
No, Jen, go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah.
The rest of the team can fill in if owner is not able to hear.
Okay, yeah, basically I'm just kind of curious, like the renewal tracker issue has been really problematic. I'm wondering if there's intent processes that could reduce that sort of thing happening in the future, so that when something is launched, that it's been tested and checked to make sure that kind of issue won't happen again. And then I'll pause. I have more questions, but after this, I'll pause for Marcella.
Well, first of all, everything is tested and tracked before it goes out to the requirements as they go through that. So I think there's various forums, and I'm looking to you, where those things from UCD to those types of things that sort of get worked through. So if there's a specific item on those items, we could work through those in the various stakeholder forums that we have to say, is there an enhancement to our existing processes that something snuck through, or it was something that wasn't found on those particular items?
In particular for the renewal tracker, that was in response, a quick response from as a result of unwinding. It was a request that we'd heard through the various public channels to put something on Benefits Cal so that they could see. So that one did go quicker as opposed to a little more time and energy, maybe for the alleviate some of those pieces that we picked up, but our other ones, the other items coming in, yeah, those are the ones that are going through those usability pieces. They'll go through the user-centered design meetings, those types of input, which includes stakeholders, state, and that. So,
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for that reminder. And I think it was everybody said, this tracker is really important. Get it out there as quickly as possible, and we will refine it as we go through. But speed was of the essence on that, right? Good, very good. Thank you.
Thanks for that. You know, the issue that came up of it picking up old cases wasn't something we would have been able to address in user-centered design, since we're just designing what it's intended to look like. And I know we're always trying to find the balance between moving quickly and, you know, making sure it's doing what it needs to do. But this seems like a big, like, I don't know if there's a way to release to like a limited number of people so they could try it out, and then we can make final changes before releasing it to everyone. But you know, having a release of functionality that then doesn't actually work for people because they see all of their renewals or multiple renewals that are old and they can't figure out which one's the correct one, doesn't really meet the intention of having a quick release for a functionality to help people. So I guess, like, I don't know what happens on the back end before something goes out to test it, to make sure that it's not going to have some sort of unintended consequence.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate the feedback. Yeah.
Okay, and then I don't know if Marcella had her hand up, and I don't see it up anymore. Marcella, did you have a public comment? There we go.
Yeah, sorry. I I was just gonna wait for Jen to be done with her comment and I put it down, but just with this one slide that we have in front of us right now, I do see successful case linking when we are assisting our clients with creating their benefit cal accounts, and clients have, you know, like pretty much no issue with that, I feel. But where we're seeing the issues with linking, or we have to relink is what we're calling it, is when our clients receive the reports and we're, you know, trying to assist them to complete the reports electronically, but we go on and help them onto their case and there's nothing there. When we've, you know, assisted in the past and we know those cases had been linked already. So I'm just trying to figure out if there's any way for you all to track that as well. So for existing benefits cal accounts, and how the information sort of kind of drops off or disappears after it's already been linked and was already technically available to the client. And if there's any way to sort of monitor that or pull data and see if, you know, if clients' information is current, and maybe not just information for one case, which kind of is what we see happening, where all of a sudden it's just their information for their Medi-Cal that's available. You can't see their CalFresh information any longer, or vice versa. When our Medi-Cal advocates are helping, they don't see any of the Medi-Cal information to help the client with their renewal, but they can see the CalFresh information. So, you know, we're just trying to figure out how that can be better monitored to figure out what clients can do, or if there's information too that can be posted on the Benefits Cal website so that customers, you know, consumers can know that if you don't see your information, you can then do this, sorry, to make sure that your information will populate.
Thank you, Marcelo. I think if you can share a few examples after the meeting, we can definitely take a look at those scenarios and specific cases and you know, work on those.
Yeah, thank you. And I have provided in the past, but I do have some recent ones that I can provide.
That would be super helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay, and Jen, I still see your hand up. Did you have more comment?
Yeah, I had a few more comments. So just kind of going all the way back up to the benefits cal metrics. Thanks again for providing these. It's really helpful to see the success of the website, and you know, appreciate this approach of comparing to other states. And you know, love to hear that we're doing better than other states. I know we've shared before that we want benefits cal to be the best in the country because we think Californians deserve that. So we are looking forward to learning more about these comparative metrics, including the methodology that's being used. We've been requesting, probably since the launch of Benefits Cal, to participate in some conversations about metrics to gauge the success of the website. And we've continued to be promised to have this conversation throughout the last few years. So it's great that these metrics are being created, and we're still wondering when we can participate in like providing feedback on how these metrics are developed and understanding the methodology that's being used.
Sure, Jennifer. I think we do have an agenda item for the upcoming quarterly stakeholder meeting for that particular topic. I think we can cover that, use that forum, you know, together for at least for any questions or methodology underneath for these metrics too. Most of these metrics that I shared today are monthly or quarterly published under calsas.org benefits cal section. But in terms of the methodology and underlying numbers, we can definitely have that conversation during the quarterly stakeholder meeting next week as well. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look forward to that update, and I hope that then in the future it will lead to a more collaborative conversation where we can like kind of noodle on a little bit more about like what actual metrics will show us the success of Benefits Cal, and come to some sort of collaborative agreement on like how that information can be presented so that it has enough context for us to understand like what it actually means about the success of the system.
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer.
Another question I had was about the drop-down list. We've learned that they don't actually show up for the worker. So I think I just wanted to raise that as we're trying to support access for consumers, just thinking about like, will this make a difference for the way the worker understands the information that's coming in? And you know, I'll look forward to hearing more about this, but just wanted to point out that it sounds like workers don't actually see the document type that a person chooses. And then in talking about like, as the migration is winding down, we have noticed that the outage rates for Benefits Cal are pretty high compared to other websites of this size or of this nature. And so we're wondering if we can expect that those outage rates will go down in the coming year.
In terms of the first question, Jen, we can work with, Lisa and the caseworker side of the downstream for the document uploads, how this information is transpired or carried over for the caseworker processing standpoint. We can take it offline and follow up, but right now, the document upload screens are for customers or CBOs, on the dashboard standpoint. Of course, the correlation between the selected documents, it is only through the imaging, right? It is a metadata when the image or document is sent over to the system, but we can follow up with the CalSAS system, what it means for the caseworker experience standpoint too.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. And just a couple more questions.
Just let me hop in on the availability question.
Yeah.
Because, we think that Benefits Cal has had significantly high availability throughout. And I think we've been very transparent in the issues that we've had to contact the advocate co-leads when we've had an issue like we started out this meeting with Forge Rock and sort of the maintenance issue that occurred, to let you guys know when we are experiencing an item that may impact consumers as we go forward. So if you do also have a means of comparison on coming to the conclusion that there is not high availability in comparison to other websites of this size and nature, please send those over so we can take a look at those as we look for the future on service level agreements and things like that, as we're going into a procurement, so that we have a means of comparison that so that we can understand how you came to the conclusion. Because we've had some outages, many of them are planned outages as a result of the migration, and the unplanned outages have been very few. And I think on those very few outages, we've been very transparent in communicating with the advocate co-leads on that. So if you can provide us with some documentation on that, we definitely want to take a look at that, especially as we look in the future to do the maintenance and enhancements procurement on that. And we might examine service level agreements that make sure that we are tracking those items, because we know the importance of high availability. We're thinking for the most part we've met that, but if you have a different impression, please provide us with that information.
Yeah, you've been really great about communicating about the outages, and that's how we've been able to track the outages, to see when it's been a full outage or a planned outage, a migration outage, or a partial outage. And the weekends are particularly onerous for people because there are a lot of outages because of migrations, follow-up to the migrations, where people can maybe go in and see. So I will put together some information that we've tracked, and we'll be curious to hear your feedback.
Yeah, and planned versus unplanned, because we know that we've just gone through a very active period where we've had to do migration, that those things are planned and unavoidable. I'm more concerned about the unplanned, in which we started out this meeting talking about an unplanned impact on those items. So we at this point don't have any other planned items, but if we do have a planned outage, we'll definitely make sure that we publish those so people can be prepared.
Right. And for a client, I think it doesn't matter to them one way or the other, whether it's planned or unplanned. Like, the outage is an outage to them. So that's why we want to try to see if we can expect less outages as the migration's winding down. So the last
and if we do plan on anything, we will make sure that you know, as we have with the others.
Great, thank you. The last couple questions I had, one of them was with the updated release of information. I just wanted to ensure that those of you that work with eligibility workers, to make sure they're continuing to accept the releases of information from CBOs. We've started hearing that workers are now rejecting them, or saying that the forms that have traditionally been used are no longer like eligible. And so I just want to make sure that people are aware that like the traditional process for ROAs hasn't significantly changed. The changes that are coming up are specifically related to Benefits Cal. And just to make sure that there isn't some misinformation that CBOs aren't able to use the forms that they've been using to call and ask for support for their clients. I think, yeah, that was my last comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? And I'm going to circle back. I think I saw a hand up from Albert.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I know I joined a little bit late, but I kind of got lost on that last discussion. Was that a presentation discussion? Because for public comment, I think we kind of went over the time, and I just want to be cautious, that we are in a Brown Act meeting, and I know that my council at times keeps looking at my performance here. So I just do want to bring that up, that, this is a Brown Act, and I'm just hoping that we are not discussing things that are not part of our agenda. That's all.
I think it's a good point, Albert. We have exceeded our time limits on a number of comments today that have sort of slid into more dialogue instead of public comment and following up. So I think point taken, and I think it's a good observation.
Thank you.
And I don't see any other comments. And so, Owner, I think, does that do it for your presentation on Benefits Cal?
Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll move on to the next topic. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Osterwald, and I am here to talk to you about a project that we are undertaking at CalSAWS related to workload management, specifically as it pertains to the assignment of intake workers and scheduling intake appointments in the CalSAWS system. So this is something we've kind of briefly brought up in the past. The project is going through basically a requirements gathering process right now, where we're going through and identifying kind of the pain points that counties are having. And I really want to give you guys an update of where we are at with that project. So the challenge that we have right now is assignment of workers during the intake process. It's it's a very critical to county business process. Counties handle this very differently depending on their particular business process and their workers' capacity. And a lot of counties right now are leveraging external tools and utilities to get to align to their process and manage their workload. We know that we've received a lot of feedback specifically from the CalWIN counties and a number of the existing CalSAWS counties as they've migrated into the system, related to just different ways that they're doing business, and they had a desire to have the system go through and kind of change how it is functioning to better align with their particular business process. So we do know that there are some very specific items that they want to have addressed that have been a challenge. A lot of it stems from the decentralization of work. I think at one point in time, a lot of counties had gone through and had a very specific process where someone walked into the door, applied for aid, and they walk through the whole application process in a specific office. In our kind of modern way that we're doing eligibility, things are very different. Work is not as centralized as that. The applications can be processed very frequently throughout a county. A lot of times people are calling in, or you've got Benefits Cal applications that are coming in. And they really want the system to better account for distributing that work out, and also being able to kind of address that banked-based work model where work doesn't necessarily go to a specific worker. We schedule appointments for capacity at a given time, and then whoever's there and available at that given time will get that work. So those are some of the challenges that counties are having now. And again, they would like CalSAWS to better align with how they're doing their business today. So moving on to the next slide. So in order to kick this process off, we're actually need to go through a process where we are doing requirements gathering. So again, as I had said, this is a very unique area where it's not really driven by policy as much as county business process. So we have 58 different counties in the system today. While they do have similar business processes, they are somewhat a little bit more nuanced in between them. We see this with other areas of workload management, such as task management, where we've had to come up with a more configurable way. We've had to talk to counties and solicit feedback on, how do we need to make a configurable solution that meets your needs. So with this approach right now, where we're going out and kind of soliciting requirement, we're taking a more human-centric design approach as opposed to a user-centric design approach. What I mean by that is we're not just looking at the end users of the system and their needs. We're taking a more holistic view of the county needs. In general, we're looking at, what are management and oversights needs? What are the workers' needs to better, the end users' needs to better, distribute out work and notify them of that and schedule the intakes. In addition to that, we're also looking at maintainability. We want to make sure that the solution that we're suggesting coming out of this is definitely a maintainable solution that will be something that's scalable in the long term of that. So when we say human-centric design, again, we're not just looking at the end user, we're taking a more holistic approach in this as we're doing our requirements gathering and taking all our stakeholders into consideration and coming up with a solution that will meet everybody's needs and be maintainable into the future. Moving on to the next slide. So how we're doing this, so right now we're kicking off the early stages again of kind of like requirements gathering, making sure we're talking to all of our counties out there and better understanding what each of their individual needs are, so we can put together a suggested set of requirements and bring that back to the consortium and the project, as well as the counties to have a roadmap to go forward. So that's really kind of the heart and soul of this effort. It is a 5-phase effort. We're kind of in the preparation phase right now, where we're just kind of preparing what our plan of attack is. We're engaging with the regional managers. We are starting to engage with the regional meetings to kind of get everyone familiar with what this is going to be. And it's really going to culminate with workshops that we're going to be conducting regionally. So we did actually send out a CRFI about a week ago where we're soliciting from each county, two individuals from each county that can participate in a workshop sessions where we will go through and better understand the personas or users that are using the system. We're going to better understand their pain points, what's going well, what we need to improve on in these workshops. And as well as we're going to really collaborate and co-design requirements together that we're going to go through and then synthesize together. And then at the end of this, we'll provide readouts back to the county. So as I said, there has been a CRFI that went out to the counties about a week ago. The responses for that back to identify your participants is due back to the project on December 20th. And then we're planning to have a kickoff meeting on January 10th with all the members that are going to be participating in these workshops to give them a little bit more information on how the process is going to be moving forward. Moving into the next slide. So again, just kind of looking at a project timeline right now. Right now, we're in the early stages. We're kind of just doing, again, the planning and the research. We sent out that CRFI. And then moving into the next phase where we actually conduct the workshops. After our January kickoff meeting, we'll meet with all the regions individually. We'll do about one regional meeting a week. It'll be about 4 hours per meeting is our current plan. Tentatively, we would start with region 4, then do region 6, 5, then 3, 2, and 1. There's a little bit intentional that we're kind of giving some of our counties that are a little bit newer into CalSAWS some additional time to get used to the system so they can, provide us some feedback that's relevant to really their experience within the context of CalSAWS so we can really come up with the best set of requirements and moving forward. So we do see that as being, it's going to be about a 12-week process from the time that we've kicked off through the time that we've conducted the sessions, and then finally providing the readouts and the suggestions back to the consortium in this group as to how we suggest moving forward with that. So really looking probably, with the holidays, we'll be conducting, probably starting off the regional meetings closer towards the end of January into February, and then hopefully wrapping this up within the March timeframe. And with that, that's really where we're at with this project. Again, this is something that we're really excited to be moving forward with the project to kind of better align with, how counties have evolved in their business process and better meeting their needs. So they can look less towards, ancillary external solutions and more towards CalSAWS to really helping facilitate their business process. And then I think I will turn it back over to you, Cindy.
Hey, thank you for that. Sounds like it'll be good. Any comments or questions from PSC meeting members?
I just wanted to share, I really appreciate you guys asking the counties for participation on this process. I think it's going to be really helpful for all of us. So thank you, and we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Great. Any others?
Hey, Cindy, this is Anna. So I just want to say as well that I'm really excited about this, and I'm glad to really hear this happening. And it sounds like really a thoughtful approach, how we're doing this, starting from the research and, digging in, having some county input and kind of like the whole process in getting us to the solution, right? So I just want to say thank you for presenting this to us well in advance and raising that awareness. Two things that I just wanted to put it out there. I know you mentioned something about this is not guided by policy, but I think we need to put some guardrails and just be mindful about some of the things, because our existing business processes, are guided by that when it comes to timeline. So I think those are good things to just keep note. And also lastly is about the user's experience. I know we want to consider what the county needs, what are the options we have, but it's always also good to know what's going to be the impact for our clients. So thanks.
Absolutely, Anna, and both that, yeah, and we do understand that, there are policy and regulations that, drive processing timelines, and we want to make sure, really more than anything, that we are giving you a tool that aligns with those and allows you to meet those, policy requirements as you go forward in processing applications. And again, making sure that we're able to timely get to our applications and give you guys the tools that you need to do that, as well as we will work with you guys and make sure that we are very aware of any sort of end user impact as we move forward with this. And again, a key goal of this is to make sure that usability is a big portion of how we proceed forward, making sure that we've got a very usable and user-friendly solution for you.
Great. Any other comments from PSC? And any comments from the public? Okay, Jason, thank you for that presentation. We're going to move on to report strategy update.
All right, everyone. My name is Sean Swift, and I'm going to give us a quick update on where we are in the report strategy update. As we had talked in previous meetings, we're conducting a 3-phased approach on very similar to what Jason was talking about, but discovering more feedback, more what are the counties facing, both Cowan counties and as well as the other 40. Our first phase occurred last month. This is where we met with the regional managers. We gathered a lot of the hot topics. We helped co-create a survey that as of this week has actually been administered. So phase 2 has started. This survey is lengthy. I think it's over 100 questions. It will take a good strong half an hour to complete. Most likely that person will need to coordinate with other people throughout the county for their feedback. A lot of that information was provided in the CRFI that was sent out, along with a copy of the survey itself, and lots of discussion with the RMs. So phase 2 is in full swing right now. We expect the survey to go through just about right after New Year's. at which point we will begin conducting phase 3 towards the middle to end of January. We're looking at somewhere about 15 to 16 sessions with counties of various sizes that we will group together. All 58 counties will be invited to these sessions. What we will do in those sessions is we will, in advance, look through their survey results, see specific things that were highlighted or trends that we saw within those results, and bring that to that session, listen to the counties, bring up, hey, this is what we're seeing. What advice do you have for us? What would you like to see from us? What dynamics are not working for you? Where do you need documentation, formatting, support, and start to bring those items to light from the counties. Once we have all that information and we've either guided that towards resources that exist or create those resources, or identify, hey, consortium, here's something where we need to come up with a way to do this differently. We'll provide that at the end of this effort as an executive output to our leadership group. If we can go to the next slide. We aren't waiting for all of this to complete to start taking actions right away. There's lots of stuff that has already occurred. What I would like to suggest to everyone is to look at that enhanced communication. We send it out to what feels like everyone. I know it's not everyone, but we send it out to a few hundred people. It goes out bi-weekly, usually a day or two after our statement fiscal session that occurs bi-weekly as well. And this has a ton of information, including a place to look at to see, hey, here are the reports that have known issues, whether those are defects or some form of enhancement that has been scheduled for one of the upcoming releases. So it's a good place to say, hey, if my staff is having issues, is the project aware of it? Which is something we are struggling with. We are struggling with hearing things that are of frustration with the counties, but we have yet to receive evidence or facts towards that end. So we continue to meet with the counties, we continue to look for tickets, we continue to look for examples. The RMs are on the hunt for us. They're helping us a lot with trying to gather that information. There are meetings still occurring. The Wave 6 sessions will be coming to an end. We do continue to have the bi-weekly sessions. We have changed those to be indefinite. So those sessions are not coming to a conclusion anytime soon. They were originally scheduled to end probably about December, January. We hadn't really confirmed a date, but at this point, they're just going indefinitely. If we go to the next slide, on top of all the sessions and coming to the outcomes there's other things that are still in flight. There's various documentation efforts that have been requested or thought through. The biggest one being overall reports documentation, and there's some effort going through with using some new technologies, generative AI, to produce that. What is new to the table that isn't on here yet, because this was just agreed to in the last week, in our off weeks, so we have the bi-weekly sessions where we cover state and fiscal reports as a whole with all the counties. In our off weeks of that, we will begin scheduling, I guess they're still bi-weekly now that I think about it, but opposite of our sessions, we will have deep dives into individual reports. So perhaps the first week will be a 2 or 3 hour session just on the FNS 209 or the 237 or this report. And we'll continue to do these deep dives until the counties feel either comfortable with the logic or we've been able to tease out what is wrong and start to get those corrections put in place. So sorry, that's not on the slide yet, but that is something that we have. It'll probably start after the new year. We want to use the existing state and fiscal group that meets bi-weekly to prioritize what order we should do those deep dives in. Oh no, I do have it up there. I did put it up there the second bullet. I knew I updated some slide deck. I couldn't remember which one it was. I guess it was this one. So okay, good. And that's it for me. More will come out in the January, February timeframe as we continue to go through these sessions and see a lot of the metrics that we can gather back out of those surveys.
Sounds really great. Thank you. I know it'll be a lot of good information coming out of those listening sessions. So thank you for all those efforts. Any questions or comments from PSC? And I believe also, Sean, the survey has already been sent out as well.
The survey went out on Monday, and then a few of the counties who had yet to respond to the CRFI started providing that information to the RMs. I don't know, within minutes of the survey going out. So we started getting more and more feedback. So we're sending it as we get new participants identified. We'll continue to send that out. Our goal is to get as many of the counties to respond to that survey as possible.
Great. Okay, and it was helpful to have a draft of the questions. You know, I sent it out ahead of time so I could start getting responses back. So thanks. Okay, any public comment or questions?
Hi, Cindy, Elaine Martinez. I just wanted to thank you, Sean, for that presentation on the steps around the reports and just the acknowledgement that it's an area of concern for the staff, just because, you know, they really want to be able to use the system to the full extent. So I appreciate hearing what the plan is. Thank you.
Great, thanks for that. Any other comment? Okay, we'll move on to procurement updates. Thank you.
So a little bit about benefits count. We're finishing the requirements polishing and assembling the full body of the RFP. And that will be provided to our consortium state, federal, and stakeholders on January 17th. And collect more comments and input. The schedule's on time and it looks pretty good. And remember, this is an M&O style procurement, so we're not procuring specific functions, but more capabilities and hours to do whatever comes out of the governance process. Next slide. Very exciting. December 12th, we had our meeting in Sacramento, the final evaluation team meeting, where we walked through all the results and the apparent winners of the procurement. And that will be made public on February 8th. And this will be a little different than previous procurements because in addition to the notice of intent to award, which identifies who won what, we will also have the full vendor selection report on the website, as well as the proposals submitted by each of the bidders. So if any bidders are interested in looking at their competitive position and whether or not they might file an appeal, all of the information should be available without any FOIAs or requests for information. So very exciting. I can tell because Henry was one of the evaluators. Oh, I can't say that. So that's it, Cindy, back to you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions or comments from PSC members? Any questions or comments from the public? Okay, we'll move on to key IVNV activities.
Hello everyone, good morning. I'm Bhuvna and I'll be providing you with the key IVNV updates from the project oversight we continue to perform in the following work streams. On CalSOS and Benefits Cal releases, CalSOS release 23.11 was successfully implemented in production in the month of November. Of the few items found post-implementation, IVNV observed that the project team did a great job in communicating the issue, providing timely updates and resolutions. Regarding Benefits Cal, IVNV observed great partner coordination, leading up to a successful November 23.11.30 monthly release. The team is making positive progress as they move towards the testing of December release 23.12.19. Additionally, the IVNV team observed great progress in the Benefits Cal user-centric design meetings and the ROI workgroup meetings. It included productive conversations and great collaborations between the project, state partners, and advocates, leading to some important discussions regarding the designs of upcoming enhancements. Moving on to imaging. In the month of November, imaging system was stable and met the needs of 58 counties, and the imaging team is making steady progress with defects and enhancements. Moving to the next topic, batch. The batch processing performance was able to meet the needs of CalSOS during the month of November and adhere to the established service standards. The batch team continues to coordinate with the application development and technical teams to resolve issues and tune up the batch performance. For conversion, in the month of November, our team tracked efforts for Wave 6C conversion cutover. We tracked the progress on the cutover activities and we participated in the review of test results. And the data conversion was completed very smoothly along with the timely resolution of the targeted defects. Moving to the last topic, implementation. The post-implementation support for Wave 6 started in November and we are now in the 7th week. The support teams are doing a phenomenal job. Overall, we observed that the counties are utilizing the support resources and settling well in CalSOS. And that's all from IVNB.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from PSC? Any comments or questions from the public? Okay, we'll move right along then to the state partners updates. And first up is OTSI.
Good morning. This is Steve Zaretsky. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Two items really quick. The state approved the Cowan ISS change order number 6, and we sent that over, I believe, on November 29th. And then the Cowan as needed APD was formally submitted to CMS earlier this month on the 6th. And we await any questions they may have on that. Along with IVNB, we continue to monitor the Wave 6 post-go live activities. And that's it for this month. Any questions? Thank you.
Hey, thank you. And moving on to CDSS.
Good morning, this is Cecilia. CDSS has no updates today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to DHCS, any additional updates today?
Hi, just real quick, just wanting to share out that a lot of the COLA related policy letters from DHCS around like the Social Security COLA and such have been released. The other thing I wanted to draw folks' attention to is we did release a MEDL reminding counties some very important things. One in regards to when an individual has been discontinued during the renewal and they come back in during the 90-day cure period, we should be encouraging them to submit their annual renewal and not encouraging them to reapply for coverage. And then also that any terminations do need to be future forward and not done retroactively. I'll place the MEDL that provides those important reminders in the chat. But other than that, those are the only updates from DHCS.
Great, thanks everyone. Any comments or questions from PSC members? Or comments or questions from the public? Okay, thank you. We're now at regional updates. So we will start first with Region 1.
I'm here, hang on, just 1 second. Good morning. So I have a few updates from Region 1. So from San Mateo, they have an eligibility manager retiring at the end of the month. And recruitment is underway at this point. So they are working with Deloitte Virtual Support and who have been helpful to their staff, assisting them with the useful guides on common CalSOS errors and reoccurring themes. In November, Deloitte Virtual Support was able to assist their staff with about 151 guides. And then they continue to work through some of the challenges in the ad hoc and state fiscal reports with Accenture. They completed their first SSA and Capicola in CalSOS. They've also implemented imaging office queues in CalSOS and incorporated into their business processes. They began review and rework on document routing rules with operational management team and started to explore leveraging CalSOS tasks functionalities as part of their process improvement. They've also reverted back to Touchstone for their call center IVR by removing the welcome bot functionality. For Monterey, their interviews wrapped up to fill their vacant positions in DSS IT. Their hiring is expected by January 2024. Their community benefits, the CalFresh Medical only induction class ends this December 16 of 2023, and they'll have 17 new eligibility specialists joining their district offices for OJT. Their next induction class will also be CalFresh and Medical only, and interviews have started already, and they're hoping to begin this next class on January of 2024. Their teams continue efforts to transition from a managed to POP contact center. And they also continue efforts to transition to ECCP. Go live looks to be in January of 2024. And they're working with CalSOS to finalize that date. For Solano County, they're currently training a class of 18 new EBS workers. Ongoing weekly communication to staff regarding CalSOS information is in their Solano CalSOS Scoop. Bi-weekly CalSOS corner meetings with staff to provide CalSOS information and address questions and concerns. They're actively engaged in lobby device planning. Kiosks installation was a success. Training is ongoing, and they went live with the kiosk this week. Staff development training is creating CalSOS system-related videos to assist their staff with common issues, and ongoing meeting with project staff to address reporting questions and concerns. And last but not the least, for San Francisco, we have an induction training starting on January 2024 for eligibility workers. The plan is for a cohort of 25 for our SF benefits net group that manages the non-assistance CalFresh and medical cases. So this is our month 2 in CalSOS, and staff continue to increase their knowledge and comfort level in using the system. We were fortunate, we're one of the counties that went live with a kiosk. So what we've done is expanded also the kiosk in our other offices to make that go live. We continue to share useful guides that exist and create new ones for our staff on common CalSOS errors and reoccurring themes. And that's it. Cindy, I'll give that back to you. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. That was all for Region 1?
Yes.
Okay, and on to Region 2.
Hi, good morning. This is Region 2. So Calaveras County is currently hiring for eligibility specialists, and soon will also be hiring employment services workers. They're also going back to task-based method for intakes unit in January. El Dorado and Nevada County are both currently working on getting their kiosks installed. Sacramento County is currently at same month 2, working through migration changes and acclimating to CalSOS. Sutter County currently has a class of 12 in training and a new class starting in January. They've reclassified their staff services analysts to staff analysts and are also hiring for a staff services manager. Tuolumne County has their director, Rebecca Espino, currently is retiring after 33 years in social service, as is their assistant director, Steve Boyack. Again, also working 33 years for the county and social services. Their new director, Annie Hockett, began on December 11th, and she was previously their CWS social services supervisor and also the assistant chief probation officer. Yolo County has hired Tico Zendejas as their new service center branch director and are currently hiring 16 new public assistance specialists. And that is all the updates for Region 2.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to Region 3.
Hey, this is Rachel from Region 3. Just a few updates for our counties. All of the counties are actively working on the continuous coverage unwinding and also are working on our CalOR process. But individually, Glenn County is reporting they're moving from employment and training worker model to integrated caseworkers and have just started recruitment for that. Humboldt County had a class of 7 eligibility staff that they were anticipating to graduate at the end of this month. Lake County just started the Gainwell return mail process on December 1st. Lassen County is looking forward to their kiosk delivery. For Mendocino County, we just started a new employment and training induction class and are currently interviewing for eligibility specialist induction class. Modoc County is interviewing for office specialist and employment and training worker. Shasta County has a class of 14 eligibility staff who just started induction, and they are expecting to start an additional class in January. They have just changed the structure of their training class, with the supervisor now being an eligibility supervisor and the unit being a mentor unit. And they also mentioned working through the unwinding process. Tehama County currently interviewing for eligibility specialist and also pending their kiosk, new kiosk delivery. Trinity County just hired 2 new admins and have hired additional eligibility staff, and still actively recruiting for other positions. And that is it actually for Region 3 this month.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to Region 4.
Hi, I have a couple of updates for Region 4, starting with Fresno County. Their Welfare to Work program staff continue to meet weekly to discuss business process questions and lift up any potential system issues to ensure everyone is on the same page. They completed updating several how-tos to incorporate their new processes and steps as a result of their CalSOS migration. Topics were prioritized by staff. Program and staff development are working together to update induction training, which will incorporate CalSOS in preparation for their upcoming hiring of new job specialists. For Kern County, they completed their CalFresh management evaluation in November with really good results. They have been meeting to develop a process for the EBT theft reports and are receiving, for the reports they are receiving from the state, as well as a process and outreach for the rollout of the EBT Edge mobile application. They have developed a process to work screening backlog, as well as prioritizing the completion of Medi-Cal renewals, finalizing all processes for the move to a new location in Lamont, and preparing for office closures during the holidays to ensure coverage so that emergency services can continue to be provided. Mariposa County, they are continuing to recruit for 2 vacant eligibility specialist 3 positions. They have taken delivery of their 2 kiosks and are placing 1 awaiting to go live. They are still waiting on their final approval from CalSOS for the completion of their tech refresh, and laptops are on hold at the moment. Merced County, they hired 13 new eligibility workers who started on November 6th and are hoping to launch a new recruitment at the end of December. Their CalFresh management evaluation was also conducted in November. There are some areas of improvement for them, but overall, they had good results. San Luis Obispo successfully completed their CalSOS migration on October 30th and recognized the ongoing importance of learning and refining their processes. They anticipate this will be an ongoing effort for them. They want to extend their sincere appreciation for the meticulous planning and dedication that was invested in the migration process, the support of their regional managers, or Region 4 managers, on-site support and consortium staff has proven to be invaluable. This accomplishment is truly the result of a collaborative effort. And lastly, Stanislaus County is reporting the week of October 23rd. They had their CalFresh management evaluation, and as a result, they had a decrease of 50% in program access findings and a decrease of 32% in case review findings from their prior year review. 15 new staff started induction training on November 6th, and they are currently recruiting to hire 30 new staff to start induction training on January 27th of 2024. They continue to partner with CDSS in the core project to redesign the business model of the intake section for more streamlined processes. CDSS met with both eligibility and clerical staff in September to create a new vision of what the new and more efficient business model would look like. Their recommendations were presented to management, who agreed to continue to the planning phase scheduled to start at the end of this month. And that is all I have for Region 4.
Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to Region 5.
Hi, for Region 5, Riverside County, I myself and our CalSOS regional manager recently completed a CalSOS roadshow We presented at 24 in-person offices. That was a total of 10 locations throughout Riverside County. The first half of the presentation was focused on sharing system changes that will help our staff accomplish their work, such as improvements to the logout process, the multi-factor authentication, improvements to Benefits Cal, as well as other key initiatives. The second half was focused on listening and responding to questions and issues and ideas to enhance the system. And lastly, for Riverside, we're looking forward to hiring a total of 200 eligibility technicians in January and February to help increase our staffing levels. And for Ventura, their community service department continues an aggressive hiring strategy to fill our critical eligibility worker positions. Their community service department has hired new managers for policy and strategic staff development. They're also piloting a CalFresh induction training cohort. Their regional manager conducted site visits in September and provided them with a debrief that included great recommendations. Also, their year-end celebration continues throughout their agency to acknowledge all the work that has been completed this year, including an agency-wide virtual event with their director and deputy directors. And that is it for Region 5.
Hey, thanks, Region 5, and on to Region 6. Anybody from LA, Los Angeles for Region 6 updates? Okay, trying to unmute. I see in the.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry about that, everybody. Yes, so I'm from DCFS, LA County. Currently, we're going through the exam process for hiring a Human Services Administrator 3. So we are in the final stages of interviewing through a panel, and then once we get the bands, hopefully by January, we will start interviewing and hope to onboard this person by February. So that will add an extra item to our division. Currently, we are also working with UCLA. We are working to develop some e-learnings for our King Gap and our Adoption Assistant Program for our EWs. So that's almost been completed, and that will roll out in January as well. And then we have gone live with imaging as of 12/01. We have provided our staff with tools, PowerPoint presentations, and on-hands training to help them learn the imaging process and start going paperless. So we're really excited for that. And that's all the updates that I have. Thank you.
And LaShonda, I think you have been trying to possibly unmute. Are you able to report out? We can't hear you if you're talking. LaShonda, can you hear us? I'm not sure. Okay.
Said she'd put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Talking, but no one hears me. Okay. Any comments or questions from the PSC while Region 6 is putting in the chat for the other regional updates? Any comments or questions from the public? Okay, I think that will do it for the meeting. And LaShonda, if you can get your updates maybe over to Jennifer, and then they can be included in the minutes if you're not able to get them in the chat. Okay, sounds like that was an agreement. Okay. Dorothy? Dorothy, are
everyone,
you...
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just a quick update, and I think LaShonda was going to say the same thing. We went up with our contact center on November 17th. The staff are getting acclimated to the contact center system features. and definitely want to express our gratitude to the project to getting us to this point, and the support that the project, San Bernardino and Orange County had provided when we went live for the first 2 weeks. So we appreciate that. And we are actually taking calls and servicing the public. So thank you.
Great, I appreciate that update. Okay, so that I think we'll get ready to adjourn our meeting. We do not meet in January for the PSC. So our next meeting scheduled is for February 15th.
And we hope to see everybody at the conference at the end of January.
Thanks to y'all. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Thank you.